Chapter 716. I'll only help you deal with the first city's cultivators. I won't do anything to those trash. The young man replied disdainfully. These words caused everyone's expression to change. The relief in the hearts of the many commoners also disappeared. Their faces were filled with worry. They had thought that with the young man's appearance, everything would be fine. However, they never thought that the young man would do such a thing. Even Sun Han felt a little displeased in his heart. After all, the commoners alone would not be able to deal with the first city. Therefore, he had to rely on his own soldiers. Therefore, this also meant that his soldiers would have to face death as well. If the young man had helped, this situation would not have happened. He believed that the demon emperor would definitely be able to defeat everyone in the first city. However, since the young man had not done so, he did not dare to show his reluctance. After all, the young man was the demon emperor. A demon emperor should have his own temper and pride. However, as long as the young man could help him deal with the first city's cultivators, that would not be a bad thing. At least he would not have to worry about the rear. As long as the young man could deal with the first city's cultivators, he was 100% confident that he would be able to deal with the first city as well. Lord Governor, look at the first city's flag. Just then, a soldier cried out loudly, "Follow me out of the city to meet the enemy." Sun Han was not afraid at all as he stared at the flag in the distance. Instead, his eyes were filled with anticipation. Upon receiving Sun Han's orders, nearly 100,000 commoners were chased out of the city. In order to reduce casualties, Sun Han had decisively arranged for his soldiers to stay behind the commoners. I never thought that Sun Han would be so vicious. Isn't he just sending us to our deaths? That's right. Look at his subordinates. Which one of them doesn't look pleased with themselves? He's using us as cannon fodder to weaken the first city's battle power. Look at Sun Han's disgusting face. I really wish that I could kill him immediately. Nearly 100,000 people were grumbling softly as their faces filled with fear and panic. However, no matter how soft the voices of 100,000 people were, when mixed together, it was extremely loud and clear. Naturally, it reached Sun Han's ears. These trash don't seem to be too pleased with you. The young man's face flashed with a disdainful smile as he spoke to Sun Han. Sir, I made a fool of myself. Sun Han smiled awkwardly. Then his face turned cold and he shouted to everyone. All of you quiet down. Don't blame this city lord for being merciless if anyone makes a ruckus. The Sun family's deterrence in Sun Yuan City was huge enough. As soon as Sun Han's voice fell, the noisy crowd instantly quietened down. You must think this through carefully. The members of the first city are cruel and inhumane. Behind you are your loved ones. If you don't fight with all your might, once the members of the first city break into the city, you must think about the consequences. This time, it was clear that Sun Han's words struck a chord in everyone's hearts. Initially, due to the fear in their hearts, none of them wanted to fight against the first city. However, at this moment, they had no choice but to muster their courage and fight the first city to the death. After all, their loved ones were in the city behind them, and they needed their protection. They do not know how the members of the first city were like, but they do know that Sun Han was cruel and vicious. If Sun Han were to notice that they had not used their full strength during the battle, it was likely that their loved ones would be the first to suffer after the battle. Sun Han also knew that he had to use a combination of kindness and authority to make these people risk their lives for him. Furthermore, as long as we defeat the first city this time, Sun Yuan City will receive a tax cut for 3 years. No way is this for real? Hearing Sun Han's words, everyone's eyes lit up. That was because Sun Han's promise was too tempting. After all, aside from being able to barely fill their stomachs, almost all of their earnings had to be handed over to the Sun family. This was also the reason why most people were unable to cultivate. They simply did not have the money to buy resources. As for escaping from Sun Han City, they could forget about it. Putting aside how they would be treated in other cities, the dangers along the way were not something that they could withstand. Furthermore, based on their cultivation level, they would be considered as lower-class people in other cities. They would not be able to avoid the fate of being bullied. However, if Sun Han could really give them a tax cut for 3 years, That would mean that they could save some money to buy resources and improve their cultivation levels. Only by having a strong cultivation level would they be able to raise their status. Just like the Sun family soldiers, they were extremely envious of their treatment. At the very least, they would not have to serve as cannon fodder on the battlefield and die for nothing. Rumble. Just as the crowd was still pondering over Sun Han's words, the first city soldiers had arrived in front of them. Even though they had been prepared for this, they were still shocked. Their brand new armor reflected the sunlight and emitted a dazzling light. Furthermore, all of them were fully equipped and disciplined. They stood on the spot and did not make a single sound. If they closed their eyes, it would be as if there was no one in front of them. However, the murderous aura emanating from these soldiers made Sun Yuanqing's men tremble in fear, especially the 1,000 soldiers who were wearing different types of equipment. They had unwittingly attracted the attention of everyone in Sun Yuanqing. Fully equipped and disciplined. Is this the first city that is even weaker than Sun Han City? Are you sure that these are the soldiers of the first city and not the soldiers of some large organization? That was the thought running through everyone's mind at this moment. After all, everyone knew that the first city used to be a subordinate force of Sun Yuanqing. Even though they knew that the first city had risen to prominence, they did not believe that the first city had risen to such an extent in less than a month. The battle had not even begun, but the people of Sun Yuanqing could not help but take half a step back. Their eyes were filled with a thick sense of fear. 10,000 peak-level demon guards, 900 first-level demon generals, 100 peak-level demon generals, 10,000 sets of high-grade demon guard equipment. No, that's actually top-grade equipment. There are even 1,000 demon general top-grade equipment. The young man looked at Yi Hao's soldiers and exclaimed in shock. When he had first heard the young master's orders, he had felt that it was beneath his dignity to come over. However, when he saw this scene, he was still slightly shocked. He knew that this was absolutely impossible. This was not something that a low-level city should have. The first city definitely had the support of a large organization behind it. However, after his shock, he immediately returned to normal. After all, he had seen countless formations that were even bigger than this. He was only shocked because he was in a place like this and had seen such a formation. However, Sun Han, who was standing next to him, was shocked and could not help but gulp. Chapter 717. Although he had mentally prepared himself, he had expected the first city to be powerful. However, he did not expect them to be so powerful. That was a total of 10,000 demon guards who were at the peak of their power. After all, Sun Yuanqing only had 2,000 demon guards at his peak. As for the demon generals, there were only 200 of them. However, Yi Hao had 1,000 of them, and 100 of them were at the peak of the demon generals. Most importantly, Sun Yuanqing would never be able to produce so many elite pieces of equipment, even if he was beaten to death. However, when Sun Han looked at this troop, a hint of greed flashed in his eyes. If I can kill Yi Hao, these people will belong to me, Sun Han. At this moment, the more Sun Han thought about it, the more excited he became. If he could obtain this troop, his position among the nearby forces would be greatly elevated. He would be able to sweep through all directions and expand the Sun family's sphere of influence. At the thought of this, Sun Han's throat could not help but turn dry. If the young man had not been here, he would probably not even have the courage to fight Yi Hao's men and would have run away immediately. However, now that the young man, the Demon King, was here, his ambition was greatly boosted and he could see the hope of subduing this troop. Sir, please help me kill the first city's cultivators. Sun Han had wanted to save the young man as his trump card for the last moment. However, at this moment, he could not wait any longer. He wanted to kill Yi Hao and the first city's cultivators as soon as possible so that he could gain control of the first city soldiers. He believed that as long as he could kill Yi Hao and the first city's cultivators, he would have enough confidence to take these people under his command. That was a huge sum of wealth. Seeing the look on Sun Han's face, the young man naturally knew what Sun Han was planning. I want all the equipment, but you can have the people. Sun Han did not expect the young man to have designs on the first city as well. After all, if he were to remove these equipment, the combat power of these people would be greatly reduced. However, when he heard the young man's firm tone, Sun Han could only nod in agreement. At the very least, he would be very satisfied with having 10,000 demon guards at the peak of their power. Although Sun Han was still displeased, he still smiled and replied, "What are you talking about, sir? If you've taken a fancy to these equipment, just take them. There's no need to tell me." Hearing Sun Han's words, the young man nodded in satisfaction. "You're very sensible." One had to know that the young man was also very covetous of these equipment. Although these pieces of equipment were of no use to him. However, they were valuable because they were all top-grade equipment. If they were sold and found a good market, they would undoubtedly be able to sell them for a large sum of spirit coins. When the time came, he would use the spirit coins to exchange for a set of equipment that he needed. As for Yi Hao's soldiers, he didn't care about them at all. As long as there was no Devil Emperor, he was the king today. At the thought of this, the young man walked to the front of the two armies and said arrogantly, "How dare you call yourself the #1 city? Tell your *T city lord to come out and die." Preposterous. How dare you insult the Lord? At this moment, a peak demon general walked out. One had to know that in his heart, Yi Hao was an existence that could not be insulted. Moreover, now that his strength had reached the peak of the Devil General realm, he also wanted to see how strong he was. "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" At this moment, the soldiers of the first city shouted. Obviously, they were infuriated by the young man's words. "Sigh, as expected, I haven't cultivated enough." Yi Hao sighed. This was because the thing that he was most worried about had happened. The soldiers' strength had increased tremendously. Each of them had become arrogant and looked down on everyone. One had to know that arrogant soldiers were bound to be defeated. No matter what, one should never underestimate one's enemy. Yi Hao glanced at the young man and realized that he couldn't see through his cultivation. Before he could use his detection skill, Yin Liang said, "This person's cultivation is at the intermediate level of the Devil Emperor realm. Stand down." Yi Hao immediately ordered the soldier when he heard Yin Liang's words. Not to mention the Devil Emperor realm. Even a Devil Lord realm expert could easily kill this soldier. However, the soldier was already excited by the cheers of the soldiers. He charged directly at the young man, wanted to kill the young man and gain merit in front of Yi Hao. At the same time, he wanted to show all his brothers his power. The soldier deliberately exposed his cultivation as a peak devil general. "Die!" The soldier shouted excitedly when he saw that the young man didn't move. He thought that the young man had been intimidated by him. "Ignorant ant!" The young man snorted coldly and kicked at him. In an instant, the soldier was sent flying and landed in front of Yi Hao's feet. This was a blatant provocation. "Trash is trash," the young man said disdainfully as he looked in Yi Hao's direction. When the young man sent the soldier flying with a kick, everyone in the First Legion quietened down. They looked at the soldier who was lying on the ground and vomiting blood. He was clearly on the verge of death. Although the soldier's combat strength wasn't the best in the First Legion, his strength was definitely top-notch. However, he wasn't even able to withstand a kick from the young man. Everyone could tell that the young man hadn't used his full strength. "You deserve to die for your arrogance. Since you're my soldier, I'll save you and remove you from the First Legion." Yi Hao glanced at the soldier and then put a Devil General elixir into the soldier's mouth. "Good, good, good." At this moment, the soldiers of Sun Yuansheng, who were led by Sun Han, immediately shouted excitedly. The commoners of Sun Yuansheng had no choice but to follow suit and shout. After all, they wouldn't have a good ending if they angered Sun Han. Although everyone already knew about the young man's skills, they were still shocked to see him kill a peak devil general in seconds. "Are there any more trash? Come out and die." Even though the young man didn't think much of these people, he couldn't help but feel high-spirited when he heard the roars of the tens of thousands of people behind him. The young man glanced at Yi Hao and spoke in a tone full of contempt. At this moment, no one in the first city dared to move forward. Fear was written all over their faces. After all, the young man was too powerful, and they knew that they were no match for him. Even Mulong had a worried expression as he cast his gaze towards Yi Hao. "Lord, let me go and kill this man." Yin Liang said to Yi Hao as he cupped his fists. Yi Hao nodded in agreement. After all, besides Yin Liang, no one else was a match for this young man. However, Yi Hao didn't forget to remind Yin Liang, keep him alive. Yes. After receiving Yi Hao's instructions, Yin Liang took his weapon and walked to the front of the two armies. It's him? Can he defeat this young man? I think it's difficult. This young man gives me a feeling that he's even stronger than the Lord. Chapter 718. Haha. Another piece of trash has come to die. Looks like everyone in the first city has lost their minds. Can't they see the situation clearly? My lord, kill this reckless fool. When they saw Yin Liang walk out, the soldiers of Sun Yuancheng, led by Sun Han, began to speak. With the young man in charge, they felt fearless. After all, the demon emperor was present. No one could do anything to him. The smile on Sun Han's face grew wider. He did not believe that there was anyone in the first city who could defeat the young man. What is your name? I don't kill nameless people. Yin Liang pointed the weapon in his hand at the young man. Ha ha ha. The young man looked as if he had heard the funniest joke when he heard Yin Liang's words. Who do you think you are? Do you think you can kill me? Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? The young man laughed and said coldly, Ha 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 ha. The soldiers of Sun Yuancheng were stunned. They then looked at Yin Liang mockingly. The person in front of you is a demon emperor powerhouse. How dare you boast that you can kill a demon emperor powerhouse? Are you also a demon emperor powerhouse? Everyone thought mockingly. However, the thought that Yin Liang was a demon emperor powerhouse flashed across their minds. This thought was simply too hilarious. Sun Yuan was baffled. They were already shocked that there was another demon emperor powerhouse helping them. They did not believe that the first city would have another demon emperor powerhouse. If there were two peak demon emperors in a small place, wouldn't that change the situation? Don't try to talk back. Watch me take your dog head and hand it to my master. Yin Liang's figure flashed, and he attacked the young man when he heard the young man's mockery. Shameless boasting. Watch how I kill an ant like you. The young man snorted coldly. However, he did not move from his spot. This was because he still did not take Yin Liang seriously. At this moment, the people of the first city were nervous again as they watched Yin Liang attack the young man. The people of Sun Yuancheng were not worried at all. They believed that the young man's strength could definitely kill the reckless Yin Liang in seconds. Can he do it? Mulong looked at Yin Liang nervously. He wanted to ask Yi Hao, but he didn't. Yi Hao looked at the young man, who was still acting tough. He couldn't help but observe a moment of silence for the young man. If I hadn't let Yin Liang off, I might have been able to live for a few more seconds. But now, I don't even have the chance to escape. The young man shouted. He wanted to put on a good show in front of everyone. He turned his hand into a claw and grabbed at Yin Liang's weapon. He wanted to humiliate Yin Liang and let Yin Liang know how invincible a demon emperor was. Haha, this is going to be fun. My lord actually wants to seize his weapon. Let's see how he's going to fight Sir without a weapon. Tisk, that's because my lord disdains to fight with him. Seeing the young man's actions, the soldiers of Sun Yuancheng laughed as they discussed among themselves. Instead, the young man's actions made the people of the first city even more nervous. After all, if the young man dared to seize Yin Liang's weapon with his bare hands, it meant that he had enough confidence in his strength. Wouldn't that mean that Yin Liang was doomed? At this moment, Yin Liang and the young man clashed amidst the different expectations of the two camps. The scene of a young man seizing Yin Liang's weapon didn't happen. Everyone only saw that Yin Liang's weapon had changed its direction unknowingly. It dodged the young man's hand and slashed down from the young man's head. No! The young man realized that he wasn't Yin Liang's opponent at all. Because he couldn't see through Yin Liang's aura, he knew that Yin Liang was at least a few levels higher than him. Could he be a peak demon emperor? How is that possible? The young man roared in his heart with a trace of regret. The young man knew that the difference of one level was huge. He was merely a fifth-order demon emperor. At most, he could exchange a few moves with a sixth-order demon emperor before he had to run for his life. As for those above the sixth-order demon emperor, let alone exchanging a few moves, they would have to run away as soon as they saw them. Judging from Yin Liang's aura, he knew that Yin Liang was at least an 8th Order Demon Emperor because he couldn't see through the cultivation of those above the 8th Order Demon Emperor. At this moment, the young man really wanted to run away. However, he couldn't dodge Yin Liang's attack because he was suppressed by Yin Liang's aura. He could only watch as Yin Liang's weapon landed on his head. After that, he lost all consciousness. Yin Liang grabbed the young man. He had only used the back of his weapon to knock the young man unconscious. He didn't kill him. He remembered that Yi Hao had asked him to keep the young man alive. Even though the young man was only knocked unconscious, he didn't feel good. Apparently, he had fallen into a deep coma. "My lord, I didn't disappoint you. I have captured this thief. Please punish him." Yin Liang grabbed the young man and walked to Yi Hao respectfully. He hadn't hold back. After all, the young man was a demon emperor. Killing him would definitely give him a lot of experience points. Yi Hao took out his weapon and slit the young man's throat. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a level 5 demon emperor. Congratulations to the host for gaining 50,000 experience points. Ding dong. Because this is the host's first time killing a demon emperor, the experience points rewarded are doubled. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for gaining a personal growth gift pack. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The host is now a level 9 demon general. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The host is now a level 10 demon general. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The host is now a level 1 demon king. After leveling up 3 times in a row, Yi Hao couldn't help but feel refreshed. Killing people above my level is still the best. Yi Hao sighed in his heart. Now his strength had reached level 1 demon king. In other words, his current strength was enough to fight against a demon emperor expert. However, it was only a level 1 demon emperor expert. Nevertheless, Yi Hao felt very satisfied. After all, when others fought, they could only fight opponents 1 or 2 levels above them. Even a genius could only fight opponents 3 levels above them. However, he was able to fight opponents 10 levels above him. That was a big realm. Dead. The demon emperor is dead. How is this possible? This can't be true. It can't be true. The demon emperor expert is a demon emperor expert. How could he die? Yi Hao heard the commotion in Sun Yuansheng and came back to his senses. At this moment, the soldiers of Sun Yuansheng also came back to their senses. Looking at the young man's corpse, their eyes were filled with disbelief. However, the young man's corpse was right here. This was an indisputable fact. They had to admit that it was true. Chapter 719. No, this can't be real. This can't be real. Sun Han was on the verge of going crazy. He shook his head frantically as he looked at the young man's corpse at Yi Hao's feet. The young man was his spiritual support and Sun Yuansheng's hope. He really did not know what Sun Yuansheng would do now that the young man was dead. Furthermore, the young man was a demon emperor. Now that Yin Liang had defeated him with a single move, it meant that Yin Liang was at least a demon emperor and was even stronger than the young man. The strongest person in Sun Yuansheng was only a demon general. How could they deal with a demon emperor? Since Sun Han was already in such a state, the people of Sun Yuansheng were even more flustered. His previous calm and complacent expression had long since disappeared. They looked in Yin Liang's direction with deep fear in their eyes. This was because he was the person who had killed the demon emperor. Furthermore, he was their enemy. How could they not be afraid? Oh my God, this lord is so strong that he could even kill a demon emperor. Sigh, we were really frogs in a well. To think that we dared to doubt the Lord's strength. Now I finally know why the Lord asked him to be a guard. The Lord knew that this person was extraordinary from start. Seems like the Lord has a good eye for talent. We can't compare to him. With such a strong person in our first city, we won't have to fear anyone in the future. Ha! At this moment, the emotions of the two armies were completely reversed following the death of the young man. The people of Sun Yuansheng were filled with fear. They were all glad that the death rate was so low. On the other hand, the people of First City were filled with fighting spirit once again. They looked in the direction of Sun Yuansheng and waited for Yi Hao's orders. All armies, listen up. Attack! Yi Hao saw the situation between the two camps and knew that this was the best time to attack. Hence, he immediately gave the order to attack. Attack! Following Yi Hao's order, the First Legion, led by Mu Long, charged out immediately. The Second Legion was not to be outdone either. Everyone followed closely behind. At this moment, the soldiers of First City were completely fearless. After all, the strong person of the other side had been killed, and they still had Yin Liang. Most importantly, they were fully equipped. This was something that the other side could not compare to. What should we do? I think it's better to run. Even the weakest of them is a peak demon guard. We're no match for them at all. We will be insta-killed with one slash. At this moment, when they saw the soldiers of the First City charging towards them in an imposing manner, the commoners of Sun Yuan City were completely thrown into disarray. They were originally commoners. It was just that they were lucky enough to have a bit of cultivation. However, none of them had any actual combat experience, nor had they undergone any training. They had never been on the battlefield and experienced such a scene. This was like a duck being forced onto a perch, forced on the battlefield by Sun Han. At this moment, when they saw how ferocious the people of the First City were, none of them had the courage to charge forward. Their hearts were filled with the thought of retreating. Whoever dares to retreat will end up like this. Also, I'll wipe out their entire family. Seeing that the commoners were in a mess and wanted to escape, Lin Fan shouted. Sun Han went forward and killed a few people who wanted to retreat. The crowd's hearts trembled at the sight of this. Besides, Sun Han had threatened their families, so they had nowhere to run. They could only grit their teeth and fight against the First City soldiers. However, these people didn't have any battle experience to begin with. Moreover, their average strength was only at the first or second level of Infernal Guard. Even though they had the advantage in numbers, they were no match for the First City soldiers. The First City soldiers became more ferocious as they killed. On the other hand, these commoners were slaughtered like ants. A casual slash from the First City soldiers would end a life. On the other hand, when their attacks landed on the First City soldiers, they could not even break through their defenses. Lord Governor, what should we do? Sun Yuanqing's soldiers asked in a trembling voice as they watched the massacre before them. The more they watched, the more terrified they became. Let these pieces of trash delay the First City soldiers. Let our brothers retreat first. Sun Han knew that he was no match for Yi Hao. Even though he was unwilling, he still gave the order to his subordinates. Upon receiving Sun Han's order, the soldiers felt as if they had been pardoned from a death sentence. They followed Sun Han and secretly left the battlefield. My lord, look. The soldiers behind Sun Yuansheng are escaping. Yin Liang immediately noticed Sun Han's item and reported it to Yi Hao. Follow me and kill them, Yi Hao said to Yin Liang. At the same time, he did not forget to instruct Mu Long. These should be commoners. Tell them not to kill those who surrender. If they resist, there's no need to show mercy. At first, Yi Hao had really thought that the Sun family's reputation in Sun Yuansheng was that good. They had seen so many commoners come out to help when they had attacked the city. However, when he saw that the commoners did not have any fighting spirit, Yi Hao roughly figured out what was going on. Since these commoners had been forced by Sun Han, Yi Hao did not have to kill them all. After Yi Hao instructed Mu Long, he led the 100 peak demon generals and Yin Liang in the direction that Sun Han had escaped in. Your city lord has already escaped. Are you still going to put up a desperate struggle? After seeing that Yi Hao had left, Mu Long immediately channeled his power and spread his voice out. The commoners of Sun Yuansheng finally reacted. They immediately turned around and saw the figure of a soldier from the Sun family. That bastard Sun Han. Never mind that he used us as cannon fodder. At the critical moment, he actually escaped with his own people. That damn Sun Han. I told you that there is no good in the Sun family. Now that Sun Han has escaped, is there a need for us to die in vain? I don't want to fight anymore. We can't beat them at all. It's completely a massacre. Seeing that Sun Han had actually secretly escaped with his people, the commoners of Sun Yuansheng were completely disappointed. All of them wished they could kill Sun Han with their own hands. Moreover, Sun Han's presence had a certain deterrent effect on these 100,000 commoners. At the very least, he could control the situation and make these commoners fight against the people of the first city together. However, after Sun Han escaped, these 100,000 people suddenly lost control and became scattered sand. After Mu Long's strong suppression, these people were finally willing to lay down their weapons and surrender. City Lord, there seems to be someone chasing after us. Sun Han fled desperately. This was because he knew that if he fell into Yi Hao's hands, he would lose his life. After all, as long as there was life, there was hope. He did not want to die. Leave 1,000 men behind to stop them. Don't worry, Sun Han, will definitely take good care of their families. Sun Han was still somewhat reluctant to abandon these soldiers as compared to abandoning the commoners. After all, these soldiers had been groomed by the Sun family with a large amount of resources. Chapter 720. Upon receiving Sun Han's orders, 1,000 soldiers immediately stepped forward. Brothers, there are only 100 people on the other side. Let's fight it out with them. One of Sun Yuanqing's soldiers shouted as Yi Hao quickly caught up with him with his men. You don't know what's good for you. Kill them. Yi Hao said coldly. At Yi Hao's command, 100 demon general-level soldiers moved as fast as lightning and instantly charged in front of Sun Yuanqing's soldiers. Sun Yuanqing's soldiers knew that there was a huge gap between them and their opponents just by looking at their speed. Moreover, dozens of people fell into a pool of blood in just one exchange. The First City's soldiers were like grim reapers who kept reaping the lives of Sun Yuanqing's soldiers. In the blink of an eye, the 1,000 soldiers were all killed. Even Yin Liang raised his eyebrows. He had not expected Yi Hao to train this batch of soldiers to be so precise in their movements. They did not hesitate at all when they went up to kill the enemy and directly attack the enemy's vital points. Although Yin Liang had been summoned by Yi Hao, he still had his own thoughts. Continue the pursuit. If he did not kill Sun Han after occupying Sun Yuanqing, he would sooner or later become a scourge if he did not kill him. After all, he would have more and more cities in the future, and there would be more and more places to fight. If every force let some of their enemies escape, it would become a huge problem. City Lord, the people behind us are catching up again. Before Sun Han could catch his breath, a soldier reported while panting. What? How can they be so fast? Sun Han's expression changed. He realized that he had underestimated the First City and Yi Hao. Although he knew that the First City's soldiers were powerful, he had heard from his subordinates that Yi Hao had only brought 100 men to chase after him. Therefore, he had sent 1,000 men to stop them. He had not intended to let these 1,000 men stop Yi Hao. He only wanted these men to hold off Yi Hao for a while so that he could have a chance to escape. However, this was not even 1/10 of the time that he had expected. Yi Hao had actually brought his men to catch up with him again. Send another 1,000 men. No, send another 2,000 men to stop them. Sun Han made up his mind and said again. After pondering for a moment, Sun Han gave up on escaping and said, let's not go to Hong Tian City. Let's go to Rain City. The Hong Tian City that Sun Han spoke of was the protector of Sun Yuanqing. Every year, Sun Yuanqing would have to pay a large amount of tribute to Hong Tian City. However, there was nothing he could do about it. After all, Hong Tian City was much stronger than his Sun Yuanqing. Furthermore, Hong Tian City was one of the 8 great powers in this region, ranked in the top 5. Normally, no one would dare to offend them. Above these 8 forces was the leader of this region, Hao Xiu. Sun Han was slightly worried. With the strength of Hong Tian City, he might not be able to protect himself. Thus, he could only place his hopes on Rain City, which was stronger than Hong Tian City. But City Lord, will Rain City help us? Hearing about Rain City, the soldier beside Sun Han could not help but ask worriedly. After all, he had heard of Hao Xiu's reputation. Although Hao Sun was an overlord in Sun Yuan City, in front of Rain City, they were just ants. Moreover, Hao Xiu was very powerful. Even the 8 great families had to be respectful to Hao Xiu. There were even rumors that the 8 great families were all subsidiary families of Rain City. Now, we can only gamble. If I hand over Sun Yuan City and the other subsidiary cities to Hao Xiu, I don't believe that they won't be moved. One must know that other than Sun Yuan City, Hao Sun had 3 subsidiary cities, including the first city. Although these 3 cities could not be compared to Sun Yuan City, the profits they earned every year were not small. In addition to Sun Yuan City, Sun Han was confident that Haosu would be moved. But Haosu is very far away from us. We might lose our lives before we reach Haosu. The soldier asked anxiously. Haha, you will understand soon. Sun Han revealed a confident smile. Tell our brothers to hurry up. We can't afford to lose any more of our men. Looking at the less than 5,000 soldiers left, Sun Han felt his heart ache. Another group of foolish soldiers who don't know what's good for them. Kill them. After chasing for a while, Yi Hao saw another large group of soldiers blocking his path. He couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. With Yi Hao's order, the soldiers rushed forward again. 100 against 2,000. There was no fear on the faces of the soldiers of the First Legion. Instead, they fought bravely. It wasn't only because of their strength, but also because of the demon general equipment they were wearing. Just the defense of this equipment alone was difficult for the 2,000 soldiers to break through. Therefore, these 100 soldiers were like tigers in a flock of sheep. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere. Yi Hao watched this scene quietly. After all these years of growth, he was already used to this scene. However, he didn't have any mercy for these people. Since they were enemies, they should be killed. Otherwise, he would be the unlucky one. And these people were still foolishly loyal to Sun Han, even when they were about to die. He couldn't let them go. However, what made Yi Hao regretful was that, with his current realm, killing these soldiers wouldn't give him any experience. Fortunately, he could still train these soldiers. After all, an excellent warrior had to go through the baptism of blood continuously, just like these 100 soldiers. If he hadn't used demonic beasts in the forest to train them, their attacks wouldn't have been so smooth. At this moment, it was impossible for their attacks to be so smooth. There were almost no flaws in their coordination. My lord, they changed their direction. Although Yin Liang didn't catch up with Sun Han, he kept his attention on Sun Han. Fortunately, Yin Liang had reached the peak of the Demon Emperor realm. His perception was very strong. Therefore, he could clearly see if Sun Han was making any moves. Let's go. Let's kill Sun Han first. Yi Hao glanced at the crowd that was still fighting. It would probably take a while before it ended. He couldn't help but say to Yin Liang. Then, Yi Hao left the crowd behind and followed Yin Liang. Who is it? Young Master Long of the Yu family is hunting in front. Unrelated people get lost. Just as Sun Han came to the entrance of the forest, he was suddenly stopped by a group of people. Hearing this person speak, Sun Han instantly let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the news he received was true. He heard this news from Sun Yuan. A young master of the Yu family would be coming here to hunt. However, he didn't know if it was true or not. Originally, Sun Yuan wanted to curry favor with him, who knew that he would suddenly receive orders from a mysterious person to go to the first city to attack Yi Hao. In the end, he died halfway. Although Sun Han didn't know who the mysterious person who was looking for his brother was, he still heard the news of a young master of the Yu family coming here to hunt. And this young master of the Yu family was his life-saving straw. He couldn't wait for Yi Hao to have a conflict with the Yu family. By then, the one who would die would definitely be Yi Hao. Chapter 721. Sun Yuansheng. The guard frowned, wondering if he had heard of this name before. That's right, Lord. Sun Han nodded when he heard the guard call out Sun Yuansheng's name. What bullshit, Sun Yuansheng? I've never heard of him. Leave this place quickly. If you disturb my young master's hunt, you'll suffer. The guard glanced at Sun Han's cultivation. It was only at the Demon General level. He himself was at the Demon King level, so he didn't put Sun Han in his eyes. Moreover, he had never heard of Sun Yuansheng's name before. Sun Han didn't expect the guard to not give him face, but he didn't dare to offend the guard's identity, so he could only suppress the awkwardness in his heart. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk about my city lore like that? One of Sun Han's subordinates couldn't take it anymore and stood out to shout. You're asking for death. The guard was furious when he heard Sun Han's subordinate's words. No matter what, he was still a member of House of Rain City. How could he be insulted by a small soldier in this remote mountain? One had to know that with his identity, although he was just a guard, his authority was definitely higher than Sun Han's. After all, even if he was easy to provoke, he still had to look at the owner before beating the dog. He had to consider whether House Yu was easy to provoke or not. Therefore, the guard took out his weapon and was about to kill Sun Han's subordinate. Sun Han saw the guard's action and his face changed. He immediately shouted at his subordinate, "How dare you? You don't know what's good for you. Back off. You don't have the right to speak here." Hearing Sun Han's words, the subordinate was depressed, but he still backed off. "Lord, my subordinate is immature. I didn't discipline him well and angered you. Please calm down." Sun Han waved his hand, and two of his subordinates carried two small boxes over. "Lord, this is my apology on his behalf." Sun Han smiled apologetically. Looking at the two boxes, the guard couldn't help but glance at Sun Han. He opened the boxes without leaving a trace and was shocked. There were two boxes of spirit coins. There were at least a few thousand of them. Although his salary wasn't little, he spent most of it on cultivation. These two boxes of spirit coins were worth at least half a year's salary. How can I do that? Forget it. I'm a magnanimous person. I won't lower myself to his level. The guard waved his hand and put the spirit coins into his space ring. Seeing the spirit coins disappear, Sun Han felt a pang in his heart. However, he couldn't help but sigh at House Yu's strength. Otherwise, how could even a guard possess a spatial ring? It had to be known that the entire Sun family was still unwilling to buy a spatial ring because it was too expensive. Yet a mere guard from House Yu had an interspatial ring. But thinking about the strength of the guards, Sun Han felt relieved. After all, they were Devil King experts. With the Sun family strength, they wouldn't be able to afford to sacrifice a Demon King powerhouse even if they beat him to death, let alone get him as a guard. This was because normally a Devil King expert's consumption of cultivation resources was absolutely enormous. Even Sun Yuan had used up more than half of the Sun family's resources to break through to the Devil King realm. "Why are you looking for my young master?" After receiving Sun Han's money, the guard's attitude became friendlier. "I'm here to give young master a large sum of wealth." Seeing the guard's attitude become better, Sun Han felt better. At least the money wasn't wasted. Large sum of wealth. The guard's eyes lit up, revealing a trace of greed. Sun Han instantly saw through the guard's thoughts and quickly said, "Sir, you won't be able to eat this wealth. Of course, if your young master obtains this wealth, I believe he won't mistreat you." Hearing Sun Han's words, the guard was a little unhappy. But seeing Sun Han's serious expression, he believed it a little. "Wait here. I'll go report to my young master." The guard thought for a moment and said to Sun Han. Then, the guard looked at his companions. "You guys wait here first." Seeing the guard leave, Sun Han was a little nervous. He didn't know if Yulong would come out. If Yulong didn't come out, then he would really be finished today. After waiting anxiously for a while, a young man riding a Devil King realm lion came out. When the guards saw this person, they immediately showed a respectful expression. "Young master." All the guards bowed to the young man. "Yes." The young man nodded his head and looked at Sun Han. "You are the city lord of Sun Yuansheng. But isn't the city lord of Sun Yuansheng Sun Yuan? Also, why do you all look so tired?" The young man naturally came here to train. He had a clear understanding of Feng Yuan's strength. Hearing Yulong's questions, Sun Han immediately answered, "The city lord of Sun Yuansheng is indeed my elder brother. However, a few days ago, my elder brother was killed. Now, my son Yuansheng is being chased by criminals." "Chased by criminals? Who are they? Also, if you're being chased by criminals, shouldn't you go to Hongtian City? Hongtian City is your Sun clan's backer, right?" Yulong asked with a frown. According to the rules, if an outsider came to attack Sun Yuansheng, Sun Han could directly ask Hongtian City for help. However, if this person was also a subordinate of Hongtian City, then Hongtian City had tacitly agreed to this matter. Then there was nothing he could do. After all, Hongtian City was a subordinate force of Clan Yu. However, it wasn't good for Clan Yu to interfere with the internal affairs of other people. After all, A small Sun clan wasn't worth clan you questioning Hong Tian City. Young master, this person's name is Yi Hao. I don't know who he is either. This Yi Hao attacked one of the subordinate cities of Sun Yuansheng, the castle of the kings, and changed its name to First City. Now, he is greedy and has come to attack Sun Yuansheng, Sun Han said with a face full of resentment. In other words, this person is behind you. Yulong asked softly. Sun Han subconsciously nodded his head, who knew that Yulong's expression suddenly changed. Impudent. Are you trying to kill someone with a borrowed knife? Are you trying to use me as a tool? Yulong was a meticulous person. When he saw that Sun Han didn't go to Hong Tian City and instead came here to look for him, he immediately guessed Sun Han's intentions. Sun Han's expression changed, and he quickly said, Young master, I am giving you a huge fortune. You can't accuse me wrongly. I'd like to hear what kind of wealth is worthy of this young master taking action. Yulong's face revealed a hint of interest. Young master, when this Yi Hao first came to the castle of the kings, he was alone. However, in just half a month, he managed to train 10,000 peak-level demon guards, 900 demon generals, and 100 peak-level demon generals. Speaking up to this point, Sun Han intentionally paused and glanced at Yulong. As expected, Yulong's brows were already knitted together. As for what realm was above the Devil Emperor, he didn't know. With his cultivation and knowledge, he only knew of Devil Emperors. My lord, they seem to have stopped. Something's not right. Yin Liang frowned and said to Yi Hao, Let's go over and take a look. Yi Hao would not give up so easily since he had already chased them all the way here. 20 Devil Kings and a First-Order Devil Emperor. I can't even see through his cultivation. Yin Liang and Yi Hao arrived in front of everyone. Yin Liang swept his gaze across the group of guards and Yulong. Finally, his gaze landed on the old man. You are Yi Hao. Yulong walked up to Yi Hao and asked contemptuously. With Yi Hao's First-Order Devil King cultivation, Yulong didn't think much of him. After all, any follower of his was a Devil King. The only person he was wary of was Yin Liang. However, with the old man around, he was still fearless. Hearing Yulong use the tone of a superior to ask him, Yi Hao's face showed a trace of displeasure, but he did not respond. Yulong waited for a moment and realized that Yi Hao was ignoring him. He was instantly enraged. Brat, are you deaf? This young master is asking you a question. If you don't want to die, get out of my way. Yi Hao shouted. His current goal was to kill Sun Han. As for Yulong, one look, and he could tell that he was a young master of some family. Yi Hao simply couldn't be bothered with him. Relying on his family's power and his own cultivation, he didn't put anyone in his eyes. Did he really think that everyone was afraid of him? Ha ha ha! A puny First-Order Devil King actually doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. This young master is dying of laughter. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Yulong couldn't help but sneer. Ha ha ha! Yulong's laughter brought about a series of mocking laughter. Even the old man shook his head with a mocking smile on his face. Humph, you still dare to speak to young master you like this? Even the heavens won't be able to save you now. Sun Han seized the opportunity and stood out with a cold smile. Hearing Sun Han's words, Yi Hao looked at Sun Han and said in a low voice, Kill. Seeing Yi Hao's actions, Sun Han's face changed and he shouted anxiously, Young Master Yulong, save me. Dog, stop. Yulong also didn't expect Yi Hao to suddenly attack. Making a move in front of him was like slapping his own face, not giving him any face at all. Yulong pulled out his weapon and attacked Yi Hao. Seeing Yulong attack, Yin Liang didn't move. Instead, he kept his gaze on the old man. This was because he knew that his opponent was this old man. No, Sun Han wanted to escape, but his speed couldn't be compared to Yi Hao's. In the blink of an eye, Yi Hao was in front of him. Yi Hao didn't show any mercy and directly chopped off Sun Han's head. Although Yulong had caught up, he was still a step too late. Ding dong, congratulations to host for killing Sun Han. Congratulations to host for gaining 800 experience points. Ding dong, congratulations to host for killing Sun Yuansheng. The system rewards host with 1 Legion gift pack. What a piece of trash. Yi Hao couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he saw the experience reward for killing Sun Han. However, what surprised Yi Hao was that the system actually rewarded him with 1 Legion gift pack for killing Sun Han. One had to know that what Yi Hao needed the most right now was the Legion gift pack. It was all thanks to the Legion gift pack that he was able to increase the combat power of the 1st and 2nd Legions so quickly. After all, no matter how strong he was, an army was indispensable when attacking a city. However, Yi Hao didn't have time to think about it, because Yu Long was already behind him. Gale steps. Yu Long was a First-Order Devil Emperor. Yi Hao didn't dare to underestimate him and immediately dodged. Dog, you're not a First-Order Devil King. What is your cultivation base? Yu Long saw through Yi Hao's dodging speed with a single glance. Yi Hao's speed wasn't much slower than his. This was definitely not the speed a First-Order Devil King should have. Yu Long looked at Sun Han's decapitated corpse, and his face turned cold. No matter what your cultivation base is, this young master will kill you today. Rippling Rain Sword. Yu Long roared and directly used a high-grade Mystic Devil Martial skill. Although he had only cultivated the Rippling Rain Sword to the proficient level, he was almost invincible in the same realm. Chapter 723. First Slash. Yi Hao wasn't afraid when he saw Yu Long charging at him. He immediately used his martial technique to meet it. Splatter. As he approached the Rain Dragon, Yi Hao could vaguely hear some scattered sounds of rain. Yi Hao wasn't surprised. He knew that it was because of Yu Long's martial technique. Then, the two of them collided. Yi Hao felt a huge force coming at him. In an instant, Yi Hao felt as if he was in the middle of rain. Yi Hao didn't dare underestimate it, because he knew that Yu Long's raining sword was definitely above his saber. Yi Hao didn't stop. Yu Long was also shocked. He also felt the shadow of a huge saber about to cut him in half, but in an instant, it was repelled by his raining sword. Yu Long also analyzed that Yi Hao's strength was on par with his. But fortunately, Yi Hao's martial technique wasn't as strong as his. Yi Hao's martial technique was still a little inferior to his. If Yi Hao's realm was 1 level higher, or if Yi Hao had the same martial technique as him, then it would be hard to say who would lose. But now, Yu Long already saw the hope of victory. This was because he could completely rely on his martial technique to suppress Yi Hao until he killed Yi Hao. No, if this goes on, I won't be his match. After a few exchanges, Yi Hao's heart sank as he thought quickly. System, how much more experience do I need to level up? Yi Hao knew that Yin Liang couldn't help him for the time being. After all, the other party's elder hadn't made a move yet. So if he wanted to defeat Yu Long, he could only rely on himself. Host, you still need 30,000 experience points to reach Demon King level 2. The system immediately replied when it heard Yi Hao's question. That should be enough. Hearing this, Yi Hao was delighted. He had already made a decision, following which Yi Hao and Yu Long clashed. Relying on the impact, Yi Hao immediately retreated. Seeing Yi Hao retreat, Yu Long thought that Yi Hao couldn't hold on any longer. He couldn't help but say smugly, "You dog, you can't hold on any longer, right? You still dare to attack this young master. While this young master is in a good mood, kneel down before this young master, and this young master might spare your life." Hearing this, Sun Han's expression changed. He couldn't wait for Yi Hao to die. He didn't want Yi Hao to live. If Yu Long really let Yi Hao go, then he would be the unlucky one. While Sun Han was feeling nervous, Yi Hao suddenly changed the direction of his attack and attacked Yu Long's guards. The guard's expression changed. It was obvious that he was unable to react in time. Yi Hao and Yu Long fought, and Luoyu was at a disadvantage. Why would they attack them? Could it be that they could defeat Yu Long if they attacked them? Is this kid crazy? Yu Long, Sun Han, and the old man were all dumbfounded. They didn't understand what Yi Hao meant. Even Yin Liang revealed a trace of confusion on his face. Young Master Yu Long, this dog can't be venting his anger on your subordinates, because he can't beat you, right? Seeing that Yi Hao didn't admit defeat, Sun Han rejoiced in his heart instead. In his view, the more overboard Yi Hao was, the angrier Yu Long would be. At that time, Yu Long wouldn't let Yi Hao off, and Yi Hao's current actions were exactly what he wanted. "Dog, stop for me." Seeing Yi Hao attack his guards, Yulong stopped him even though he didn't understand. After all, these were all his personal guards. Each and every one of them was also painstakingly groomed by House Yu. How could he bear to let Yi Hao kill them? But why would Yi Hao care about him? He directly slashed at one of the guards. This guard wanted to dodge. After all, Yi Hao was evenly matched with Yulong. That meant that he was definitely not Yi Hao's match. But he was only a fourth-order Demon King. How could he compare to Yi Hao's speed? Yi Hao raised his hand and swiftly killed the guard. Ding dong! Congratulations to Host for killing a fourth-order Demon King guard. Host received 2,000 experience points. As expected, Yi Hao heard the system give him experience points. Indeed, after reaching the Demon King realm, the experience points had decreased greatly. Let's hope that the experience points here are enough for me to level up. Yi Hao roughly looked at Yulong's guards. There were about 20 to 30 of them. And now, he needed 28,000 experience points. All of you run. Seeing that one of his guards was instantly killed by Yi Hao, Yulong was enraged. But he still shouted at the remaining guards. The remaining guards didn't even need him to say anything. Each and every one of them had already fled in all directions. If this young master doesn't kill you, the heavens won't tolerate it. This young master will torture you to death. Yulong chased after Yi Hao and shouted viciously. But the reply he got was another guard's head that was chopped off by Yi Hao. This time, Yi Hao killed a sixth-order Demon King. So, he received 3,000 experience points. Seeing that Yi Hao didn't even bother with him, Yulong was even more furious. He couldn't help but increase his speed. But Yi Hao seemed to have predicted this. Before he could catch up to Yi Hao, he had already changed directions. Seeing his guards fall from time to time, Yulong couldn't help but regret. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have let these guards run in all directions. Now, Yi Hao's stage was everywhere. Yi Hao could kill whoever he wanted. In the blink of an eye, 6 to 7 guards had already fallen. This made Yulong feel like his heart was bleeding. If he didn't kill Yi Hao and obtain enough benefits, then he would really suffer a great loss. When Sun Han saw Yi Hao's invincible might and the guards falling one after another, his heart was filled with anxiety. But Yi Hao was like a loach. He kept a certain distance from him, making it impossible for him to catch up. Sun Han was also shocked. He had thought that Yi Hao was just a Demon King and that the real powerful one was Yan Liang. But he didn't expect Yi Hao to be so strong. After all, those were Demon King powerhouses. But in front of Yi Hao, they were like little chicks. They didn't even have the strength to resist. The more he watched, the more shocked he was. Sun Han couldn't help but hide in the crowd, because he was afraid that if Yi Hao suddenly attacked him, no one would be able to save him. Fortunately, Yi Hao's target wasn't him. It was as if Yi Hao only had eyes for those Demon King guards. As long as these Demon King guards were caught by Yi Hao, they would be killed with a single slash. At this moment, these guards even had the heart to cry. No matter what, they were House Yu's guards. Even in Rain City, they held their heads high and no one dared to provoke them. In a place like this, they didn't even care about the Castellans. How could they have imagined that they would be chased and killed in a place like this? They could only pray that Yulong would quickly stop Yi Hao. Only then would they have a chance to live. Each and every one of the guards was using all their strength to avoid Yi Hao. Old One, save them. Chapter 724. Seeing Yi Hao kill the group of guards, Elder One did not want to make a move. After all, his duty was to protect Yulong. As for the life and death of the group of guards, it had nothing to do with him. However, when he heard Yulong's order, he had no choice but to make a move. Die! Elder One's aura was like a rainbow as a powerful force blasted towards Yi Hao. Oh no! Although this force had not attacked him, Yi Hao felt that he was unable to move. In front of this powerful force, he was like a small boat that could be destroyed at any time. He could not withstand a single blow. Yi Hao could predict that if this attack landed on him, even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. Is this the power above the Devil Emperor? Yi Hao yearned to have such power. Don't hurt my lord! Yan Liang roared. The moment Elder One moved, he also moved and instantly blocked in front of Yi Hao. Yi Hao immediately felt his body relax and asked, Yan Liang, are you confident? Don't worry, my lord. He's just an old thief. Watch me take off his dog head. Yin Liang was a realm lower than the old man. However, through the simple exchange of moves just now, Yin Liang knew that he should be evenly matched with Elder Wen. At this moment, Elder Wen's face was solemn. This was because he realized that although Yin Liang's realm was lower than his combat strength was definitely not lower than his. Then this old man will kill you first. Elder Wen hardened his heart. He could only rely on his combat experience to subdue Yin Liang. However, Yin Liang was not afraid and directly faced him. Seeing the strength of Yin Liang and the old man, Yi Hao's eyes had a trace of envy. At this moment, Yulong's reaction was faster than Yi Hao's. Seeing that Yi Hao was in a daze, he immediately launched a sneak attack. 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire. Yi Hao had already noticed Yulong's actions and suddenly used the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire. What kind of flame is this? Yulong's expression changed. He also instantly noticed the flame in Yi Hao's hand. He felt a dangerous aura from it. You're actually an alchemist. No. Could it be that you're also an artificer? Yulong recalled what Sun Han had said. He had said that the people of the first city had suddenly experienced an increase in their powers. In his opinion, it could only be the effect of pills. As for the people from the first city, they had all changed into brand new equipment. He couldn't help but suspect that these pills and equipment were refined by Yi Hao himself. Yulong knew that in this world, only alchemists and artifact refiners possessed this kind of special flame. This kind of flame would grow with the growth of alchemists and weapon refiners. It was also a life-saving method for alchemists and weapon refiners. It would also make alchemists and weapon refiners stronger than ordinary alchemists and weapon refiners. However, there were very few people who could possess flames. Most people could only refine pills and forge weapons in places with fire veins. To be able to possess such a special flame, one had to be at the pinnacle of the ancient demon area. Even House, you couldn't afford to be associated with them. He didn't expect Yi Hao to possess such a unique flame at such a young age. This shocked him greatly. This was because those who possess flames would not be restricted by their location and could refine pills and weapons at any time and place. Such a person would undoubtedly grow to be the highest existence in the world of alchemists and weapon refiners. As for the 10,000 beast spiritual fire in Yi Hao's hands, he was also very envious. One had to know that there was a certain chance of snatching the deviant fire from someone who possessed it. Of course, there was a higher chance that the deviant fire would disappear. However, this had nothing to do with him now. He had to dodge this deviant fire. He didn't doubt the power of this deviant fire. With his guard up, Yulong easily dodged it. When Yi Hao saw Yulong dodge his deviant fire, he couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He gave up on using the deviant fire to kill Yulong. After all, using the deviant fire would consume too much energy. Moreover, Yulong's cultivation realm was similar to his. If he couldn't hit Yulong, it wouldn't be worth it. Seeing the deviant fire brush past him, Yulong couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. He was so close to being burned by the deviant fire. Fortunately, his reaction speed was fast enough. If he was any slower, he would have died here. However, because he was dodging, Yulong's performance was a little awkward. This made Yulong even angrier. Dog thing, don't run if you have the capabilities. Fight fair and square with this young master. Yulong shouted angrily. Run. Yi Hao sneered coldly in his heart. In a while, the one who wants to run will probably be you. Yi Hao calculated his experience points. Right now, he was only lacking 6,000 experience points, and he could level up. Therefore, only needed to kill 3 guards right now, and he would be able to kill Yulong. Yi Hao ignored Yulong and focused on killing the guards. 1, 2, 3. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current strength, rank 2 Demon King. Just as Yi Hao killed the 3rd guard, the system's notification sound finally sounded out. After leveling up, Yi Hao directly stopped and turned around to look at Yulong. Yulong's figure also involuntarily paused. He did not understand why Yi Hao suddenly stopped. Yulong was on guard vigilantly. He was afraid that Yi Hao still had some backup plan. You should have chased enough. It's time to rest. As soon as Yi Hao's voice fell, he directly attacked Yulong. One slash. Yi Hao roared. Dog thing, how dare you? Seeing that Yi Hao did not run and instead attacked him, Yulong was delighted. Swinging rain sword. Yulong also used swinging rain sword. Today, he would use this swinging rain sword to kill Yi Hao. Good chance. Seeing that Yulong was coming towards him, Yi Hao suddenly sped up. At the same time, the power on his sword also increased instantly. Seeing Yi Hao's speed, Yulong only felt his vision blur. Then, his face was filled with shock. How is this possible? You broke through? Now that you know it's too late. Yi Hao's face flashed with a hint of ruthlessness as he slashed towards Yulong's neck. No, you can't kill me. I'm house use. Before Yulong could finish his words, his head had already fallen to the ground. If he knew in advance that Yi Hao had broken through, he might not have been killed so easily by Yi Hao. But how could he know that Yi Hao would suddenly break through? Moreover, Yi Hao increased his attack speed when he was close to him. He did not even have the chance to react. Ding dong, congratulations on killing Demon Emperor. Congratulations, host, for obtaining 10,000 experience points. Congratulations, host, for obtaining Dark Demon upper rank martial skill, Swinging Rain Sword. It's over, it's over. Young Master is dead. Young Master is dead. That means we didn't protect him well enough. My life is in danger. Brothers, let's fight this brat. Seeing that Yulong's head was separated from his body, the remaining guards panicked. Then, all of them rushed towards Yi Hao. Because according to House Yu's rules, if they returned alive after Yulong died, their fate would be even worse than death. Therefore, the best outcome for them was to be buried with Yulong, or to kill Yi Hao and avenge Yulong. Chapter 725. Looking at the remaining guards who didn't know if they were dead or alive, Yi Hao didn't show mercy. He raised his hand and slashed down, turning them into his own experience. My lord! At this moment, the 100-peak demon generals also rushed over. Control these people for me first. Yi Hao looked at Sun Yuanqing's panicked soldiers and ordered. Yes. After receiving Yi Hao's order, more than 100 peak demon generals immediately began to move. Although these 100 people didn't have as many people as Sun Yuanqing, in terms of combat strength, Sun Yuanqing's soldiers were simply no match for them. Therefore, after killing quite a number of people, the 100 soldiers instantly took control of Sun Yuanqing's people. After seeing Yulong die, Elderwin suddenly became incomparably furious. His body emitted a strong killing intent. Little bastard, you won't die a good death. This old man will tear you into pieces. Elderwin directly gave up on attacking Yin Liang and turned to attack Yi Hao. Old bastard, your opponent is me. Yin Liang snorted coldly and directly blocked in front of Elder One. Yin Liang didn't expect that Yi Hao, who was at a disadvantage at the beginning, would actually kill Yulong so quickly. Get lost for this old man. Elder One roared and desperately pushed Yin Liang back. He only wanted to kill Yi Hao now. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to return to House Yu. Do you think this young master is afraid of you? Seeing Elder One's irrational look, Yi Hao shouted angrily. Thinking about how Elder One used his cultivation to suppress him, Yi Hao felt unhappy. 10,000 beast spiritual fire. Yi Hao knew that he wasn't Elder One's opponent, so he could only use the 10,000 beast spiritual fire. Sweeping rain sword. At the same time, Yi Hao used the sweeping rain sword and followed closely. Even when Elder One saw the 10,000 beast spiritual fire, his face revealed an uneasy expression and hurriedly dodged. Seeing that Elder One dodged, Yi Hao didn't feel surprised after dying. However, he had already predicted the direction Elder One retreated to and used the sweeping rain sword to attack Elder One's neck. For someone of Elder One's level, Yi Hao knew that attacking other places was useless. Therefore, when he made a move, he had to be ruthless. Little bastard, how do you know House used sweeping rain sword? Elder One felt a sense of danger when he couldn't dodge the 10,000 beast spirit fire. He immediately dodged again. Elder One touched his neck. There was a small wound there. He could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. If he had been a second later, his throat would have been slit. At the same time, Elder One was shocked. That was because House Yu's martial art. Even he didn't have the right to learn it. Only the core disciples of House Yu could learn it. Moreover, the rippling rain sword was relatively difficult to learn. Only extremely talented disciples could cultivate it, including Yulong. There were only 3 people in the entire House Yu who had learned it. One of them was the current area lord, and the other was an elder. Yulong had learned the rain-swaying sword, which proved his talent. His future would be limitless. That was why House Yu sent him to protect Yulong. Now that Yulong was dead, one could imagine how serious the consequences would be. Therefore, he had to kill Yi Hao. But what he didn't understand was why Yi Hao also knew the rippling rain sword. Could it be that Yi Hao was also from House Yu? But why hadn't he heard of it before? Kid, are you related to House Yu? Elderwin held back his anger and asked. What a pity! Yi Hao secretly regretted it in his heart. He was so close to killing Elderwin. If he missed this opportunity, it would be difficult to kill Elderwin again. House Yu, that's... Yi Hao looked at Elderwin, trying to be mysterious. Could he really be related to House Yu? Seeing Yi Hao's expression, Elderwin was even more suspicious. Yin Liang, do it. Just when Elderwin focused all his attention on himself, Yi Hao suddenly shouted. Yin Liang took the opportunity and attacked Elderwin. You bastard, you tricked me. Elderwin knew that he was tricked by Yi Hao. 10,000 beast spiritual fire. Seeing Yin Liang's attack, Yi Hao immediately used the 10,000 beast spiritual fire. Being attacked from the front and back, even Elderwin couldn't stay calm. Elderwin's dodging showed that he was panicking. Although he tried his best to avoid the 10,000 beast spiritual fire, Elderwin's right arm was still sent flying by Yin Liang. Elderwin knew that he couldn't stay here for long. If he stayed, he would be at risk of dying. After making up his mind, Elderwin turned and left. He didn't even take Yulong's body with him. House Yu won't let you go. Just you wait. Suffer House Yu's anger. Elderwin roared with hatred. Old bastard, you want to escape. Seeing that Elderwin was about to escape, Yin Liang wanted to chase. Yin Liang, no need to chase. Seeing Elderwin's back, Yi Hao knew that it was better not to chase after a cornered enemy. Even if Yin Liang caught up, he might not be able to defeat Elderwin. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Yin Liang could only stop. Lord, what about these people? Yin Liang's gaze swept across the remaining soldiers of Sun Yuansheng. These soldiers didn't have any intention to resist. After all, they saw how strong Elderwin was. But even such a strong Elderwin was defeated by Yi Hao and Yin Liang and escaped. They didn't think that they were as strong as Elderwin. Investigate these people's backgrounds. Based on their mistakes, kill them if it's serious. Cripple their cultivation if it's light. Yi Hao looked at the crowd and said. Yi Hao knew that these people were able to follow Sun Han and escape without caring about their lives. This meant that they had a deep relationship with Sun Han. Even if they didn't do anything wrong and didn't kill them, they couldn't keep their cultivation. Otherwise, they would be raising a tiger. When Yi Hao's words fell, most of the people's faces turned ugly. This was because they were soldiers of the Sun family. Usually, in Sun Yuan City, it could be said that they committed all kinds of crimes and bullied many commoners. If they followed Yi Hao's orders, only a few of them would be able to live. The rest would be executed. They finally regretted it now. This was retribution. It wasn't that they didn't want to take revenge, but it wasn't time yet. They never thought that Sun Yuansheng would be finished just like that. Because to them, as long as Sun Yuansheng didn't fall, they could do whatever they wanted in Sun Yuansheng. Lord, please spare our lives. Lord, we know we were wrong. Please don't kill us. Lord, I could do anything for you. Please don't kill me. I'm willing to even cripple my cultivation. Suddenly, there were overwhelming pleas for mercy. In their eyes, Yi Hao was their master and could control their life and death. Take them back. Yi Hao ignored these people and had a serious look on his face. He did not think that this kind of thing would actually happen on the way while pursuing Sun Han. Looking at Yulong's skills, he knew that the power behind him wasn't weak. However, Yi Hao didn't regret killing Yulong. After all, if he didn't kill Yulong, he would be the one to die. Chapter 726. When Yi Hao returned to Sun Yuan City, the entire city was already under Mulong's control. My lord, I've investigated thoroughly. These captives are ordinary citizens of Sun Yuan City who were threatened by Sun Han to be cannon fodder, Mulong said as he walked up to Yi Hao. Yi Hao nodded. Looking at the 100,000 captives, he thought for a moment and said, "Everyone, I'm Yi Hao, the city lord of the first city. In the future, Sun Yuan City will cease to exist. It will be renamed the second city and will be under my name. It will be under my jurisdiction." Hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone lifted their heads and looked at Yi Hao curiously. He's the city lord of the first city? How can he be so young? He's really young. This is unbelievable. I heard that Sun Yuan and Sun Han died in his hands. Those two bastards deserve to die. I just don't know how this person will deal with us. Everyone looked at Yi Hao in shock. Everyone had heard of Yi Hao's reputation. Sun Han had described him as ruthless, cruel, and cruel. However, this was completely beyond their expectations. To be honest, I'm preparing to build an army in the second city. You can sign up. Of course, those that don't want to join the army can go home now, Yi Hao said to the crowd. Did I hear wrongly? I can go home so easily? Isn't he going to torture us? I thought he was going to make me a slave. This city lord doesn't seem to be as cruel and heartless as they say. When the crowd heard that they could go home safely, they were all very excited. Immediately, many people in the crowd stepped forward and started to walk towards the city. At first, not many people dared to leave. However, as time passed, they realized that Yi Hao really didn't care about them. Their faces were filled with joy and more people left. Although many people left, only 1/5 of the total number of people left. In other words, there were about 70 to 80,000 people who didn't choose to leave. These people stared eagerly at the equipment worn by the soldiers of the 1st and 2nd Legions. It was worth noting that there were quite a number of cultivators among them who were slightly stronger than the members of the 2nd Legion. "Sir, if we join the army, can we also obtain such equipment? Sir, are there any benefits for us to work for you in the army? Sir, we can join the army, but we definitely won't harm ordinary people. Can you do that?" Everyone started shouting at the same time. Suddenly, a deafening voice rang out. After all, there were 70 to 80,000 people speaking at the same time. "All of you, rest assured, our swords will only be aimed at the evildoers and enemies. We will absolutely not aim them at our own people." Hearing those people's words, it was not difficult to tell that the majority of these people were simple and honest people. Yi had in mind and promised. After all, Yi Hao would never go easy on his enemies and bad guys. However, if they were to oppress their own people, how different would they be from evildoers? What Yi Hao wanted to do was to be a tyrant in the eyes of his enemies and bad people, and to be a benevolent soldier in the eyes of his subjects. Good, good, good. Hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone felt their blood boiling, and they all shouted loudly. After all, they were all people who had been bullied before. Naturally, they knew how it felt to be bullied by others. Therefore, Yi Hao's promise naturally won the hearts of many people. Moreover, as long as you join the army, you can choose your cultivation techniques and martial techniques. The equipment will be distributed according to your strength. Everyone can have one set. Yi Hao continued to bombard everyone. If it was before, Yi Hao wouldn't have dared to say this. However, when Yi Hao killed Sun Han, he received an army gift pack. After opening it, he received another 100,000 sets of Demon Guard Supreme Grade equipment. However, unlike the previous time, Yi Hao also received 10,000 sets of Demon General Supreme Grade equipment. It was 10 times more than the previous time. Moreover, there were an additional 1,000 sets of Demon King Supreme Grade equipment. Similarly, there were plenty of aptitude elixirs and strengthening elixirs. This made Yi Hao excited for a long time. However, he could also see that the system was generous. The system wanted him to build an army of 100,000 in the second city. However, since the system was so generous, Yi Hao naturally didn't reject it. After all, the more the system gave him, the stronger his army would be and the stronger his strength would be. One could imagine that once the army of 200,000 was assembled, No other city forces of the same level would dare to go against him. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the mission. The number of soldiers under your command has reached 200,000. Mission completion reward. Army Growth Gift Pack. Mission duration. 3 days. At this moment, the system's voice sounded again. Looks like I'll be busy again. Yi Hao was tired but happy at the same time. Originally, he wanted to leave the matter of the Third Army to Mulong. It looked like he had no choice but to do it himself. Yi Hao had already made up his mind to name the army formed by the cultivators of the Second City the Third Army. However, Yi Hao didn't expect the pace to be so fast. After all, the First and Second Armies were formed so quickly. They were completed in just a few days. Yi Hao still wanted to take his time to choose the Third Army. After all, the overall quality and strength of the people of the Second City were much stronger than the people of the First City. Therefore, Yi Hao didn't have to worry about recruiting 100,000 people. The worst thing was that he didn't have enough manpower now. The 10,000 soldiers that he brought had all been deployed to protect the Second City and hunt down the remaining members of the Sun family at the same time. Now, he couldn't transfer any manpower at all. Moreover, the people of the Second City were stronger than the people of the First City. Therefore, it was much harder to control them. Moreover, Yi Hao's army was built with long-term considerations in mind. He didn't want to accept anyone into the army just to complete the mission. That would be deceiving himself and others. Yi Hao would never do that. Therefore, Yi Hao would never accept the old, weak, sick, or disabled. Otherwise, he would be irresponsible to himself. Among the remaining people, excluding the old, weak, sick, and disabled, there would probably be 2/3 of them left. Therefore, even if he accepted all the people in front of him, there would only be less than 50,000 people. Therefore, the mission was very heavy. Yi Hao still had to recruit those who didn't have the strength from the Second City to join the army. However, to Yi Hao, it didn't matter whether they had the strength or not. After all, he had the aptitude elixir and strengthening elixir. Even if they didn't have the strength, as long as they weren't retarded, Yi Hao was confident that he could make them stronger. Right now, the Second Legion was the best proof. One must know that the 100,000 people in the Second Army were all ordinary people. Now, 10,000 of them were peak demon guards. The remaining people were all cultivators. Their combat strength was much stronger than before. Chapter 727. My lord, Master Bai is here, Mulong said respectfully as he walked up to Yi Hao. Just in time, Yi Hao was overjoyed. The White Dragon had come at the right time. After all, he was currently recruiting soldiers and needed manpower. White Dragon pays his respects to my lord. The White Dragon suppressed the shock in his heart and bowed respectfully to Yi Hao. He had originally planned to lead these 10,000 soldiers and help Yi Hao attack Sun Yuansheng. However, he had not expected to receive news that Yi Hao had already subdued Sun Yuansheng. This was Sun Yuansheng, not the Castle of the Kings. The area of Sun Yuansheng was at least 3 times larger than the Castle of the Kings. That meant that he was even more powerful. However, Yi Hao was still so powerful that he had subdued Sun Yuansheng within a short period of time. The White Dragon looked at the 50,000 to 60,000 captives obediently gathered here. The White Dragon was even more curious as to how Yi Hao had done it. Uncle White, you don't have to be so polite. Yi Hao quickly helped the White Dragon up with a smile and said to the White Dragon, Uncle White, I plan to recruit another 100,000 soldiers. What? The White Dragon almost lost his balance and fell when he heard Yi Hao's words. Recruit another 100,000 soldiers. The White Dragon felt as if his heart was about to jump out of his chest. After all, Yi Hao already had 100,000 soldiers under his command. This was already shocking enough. After all, the small Castle of the Kings, with a population of only 400,000 to 500,000, had 100,000 soldiers. This was definitely something that other cities could not do. However, Yi Hao was still not satisfied and wanted to recruit another 100,000 soldiers. The White Dragon could not help but look deeply at Yi Hao. He could tell that Yi Hao's ambition was greater than he had imagined. However, The white dragon looked worriedly at Yi Hao. My lord, do we still have that many resources? One had to know that the expenditure of 100,000 soldiers was not a small sum. To put it simply, if everything else was thrown away, it would be equivalent to having an extra 100,000 mouths to feed. Furthermore, since they were recruited soldiers, they should be treated equally. Both the 1st and 2nd legions had their own equipment. No matter how bad the 3rd legion was, everyone should at least have a set of equipment. The white dragon didn't believe it. Yi Hao had already taken out so many pieces of equipment. How could he possibly take out more? Uncle Bai, you don't have to worry about resources. The resources accumulated by the Sun family are enough to feed these 100,000 soldiers, Yi Hao said with a smile. After all, the Sun family had dominated Sun Yuan City for so long. The wealth they had accumulated was dozens of times more than what Yi Hao had taken over the first city. With this wealth, not to mention feeding 100,000 people, even feeding 500,000 a year wouldn't be a problem. However, Yi Hao was not going to sit back and do nothing. He still had to attack other cities, so there was an endless supply of resources. But Lord, what about the equipment? The white dragon asked cautiously. Uncle Bai, don't worry. I've already prepared it, Yi Hao replied with a smile. Prepared. It's ready. The white dragon gulped. Since Yi Hao said that he would recruit another 100,000 soldiers, it meant that Yi Hao had prepared at least 100,000 sets of equipment. The white dragon found it hard to imagine where Yi Hao had gotten another 100,000 sets of equipment. Over the next 3 days, Yi Hao successfully recruited 100,000 soldiers. The loyalty of these 100,000 soldiers naturally reached a level that Yi Hao was satisfied with. The white dragon looked at the 100,000 soldiers who had been fully equipped. The white dragon finally realized that Yi Hao had really prepared 100,000 sets of armor. Moreover, the white dragon could easily see that among these 100,000 sets of armor, there were as many as 10,000 sets of Demon General Supreme Grade armor. These 10,000 sets of equipment were naturally exchanged by Yi Hao for the 10,000 peak Demon Generals of the 2nd Legion. The soldiers of the 1st Legion were also equipped with Demon King Supreme Grade equipment. What surprised the white dragon was that Yi Hao was not stingy and gave him a set of Demon King Supreme Grade equipment. The white dragon looked at the equipment on his body, and his heart was filled with excitement. Before he met Yi Hao, he did not even dare to think about Demon King Supreme Grade equipment, let alone wear it one day. Even Sun Yuan had probably never worn such equipment before. As Yi Hao's subordinates, you have to fulfill your duties as soldiers in the future. You must not show any signs of breaking the rules. Yi Hao stood in front of these 100,000 soldiers and set the rules for them. After all, nothing could be accomplished without rules. In an army, there had to be rules. An army was the soul of a country. If they could not even manage an army well, they would not be able to manage a country. Moreover, most of these 100,000 soldiers were used to being free and undisciplined, so they needed to be restrained by military law. Since the 3rd Legion had just been established, Yi Hao had issued very strict military rules in order to intimidate the soldiers. After all, everything was difficult at the beginning. If they did not lay a good foundation at the beginning, they would be done for in the future. Everyone listened obediently to Yi Hao's words. Not a single one of them stepped forward to resist. This was because they realized that although Yi Hao's military discipline was very strict, it was indeed for the sake of the people, for the army, and for the sake of the overall situation. It was unlike those large family clans and forces, who instilled in everyone that they had to be loyal to their orders. None of them cared about the lives of ordinary people. These 100,000 soldiers were basically ordinary people. Naturally, they were very supportive of Yi Hao's military discipline. My lord, you are really different from other rulers. If this world belongs to you, my lord, then there shouldn't be such pitiful people. I'm really looking forward to it. If this world belongs to you, my lord, then there won't be so many bad people. I reckon that if the world belongs to you, my lord, then there will be peace. At this moment, everyone's blood was boiling as they listened to Yi Hao's military rules. Everyone, I am preparing to establish an academy. At this moment, Yi Hao finished talking about military discipline. Just when everyone thought that it was over, Yi Hao's words attracted everyone's attention again. Establish an academy? When everyone heard Yi Hao's words, they were both curious and puzzled, and even more people were shocked. This was because in the ancient demons, academies represented the country, and behind every academy stood the country. And academies were meant to nurture talents for the country. This was the difference between academies and sections. If Yi Hao wanted to establish an academy, wouldn't that mean that he was going against the country? Moreover, academies were only for the children of large families or the children of high officials and nobles. Even if Yi Hao established an academy, it would not have much to do with them. After all, they were ordinary people. Although they had become soldiers now, they did not believe that Yi Hao would let their children enter an academy to study. And Yi Hao's next words made everyone feel as if they were living in a dream. Chapter 728. What? Are you kidding me? Choose from our children? Does that mean that our children can also go to the academy, receive a good education from a young age, and become cultivators? Most importantly, you didn't hear that the Lord actually said that he doesn't want tuition fees. Who can tell me if this is a dream or not? Yi Hao's words caused the 100,000 soldiers to instantly boil over. Living in the ancient demon domain was a place where the strong were respected. The stronger one was the higher one status. If one were to say what these people yearn for the most, it would be to possess strength and continuously become stronger. Become stronger. However, as ordinary people, they could barely feed their families and didn't have the resources to enter the academy and receive formal education. Moreover, it would be even more difficult to enter a sect to study. This was because the first consideration in a sect was talent. The second consideration was still to contribute resources to the sect, unless one's talent was heaven-defying. However, without exception, whether it was to enter the academy or the sect, the resources and money that they had to pay were all things that they couldn't afford. Therefore, it proved that they were not fated to enter the academy or the sect. If nothing unexpected happened, they would have to live the rest of their lives muddling along. However, they didn't expect that Yi Hao would accept them as his subordinates. The cultivation resources that Yi Hao gave them were things that they didn't even dare to dream of. No matter what, their lives now were more than 100 times better than before. Moreover, they were also regular soldiers of the army. It was better than living the muddling life of the past. As long as they had the opportunity and fought bravely on the battlefield, it wasn't impossible for them to be conferred the title of Marquis. Anyway, at least they saw a glimmer of hope in their lives. However, they didn't expect that this surprise was far from over. Yi Hao was actually preparing to establish an academy, and the students that he would recruit were their children. How could they not be excited? After all, who didn't want their children to become dragons and phoenixes? Moreover, what surprised them the most was that they didn't have to pay to enter the academy. At this moment, everyone was looking at Yi Hao with eyes filled with nothing but admiration. They felt that Yi Hao was sent by the heavens to save them. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the mission. Establish an academy. Recruit 100,000 students. Upon completion of the mission, the host will be rewarded 100,000 low-level cultivation techniques, 3,000 military manuals, and 1,000 instructors. Their strength will be equal to that of a demon emperor. Reward a demon venerable expert. Reward 1 low-grade fire vein, 10,000 alchemy furnaces, 10,000 crafting rooms. The rewards are so generous. Yi Hao was excited when he saw the rewards from the system. This was because he had never seen the system being so generous. Putting everything else aside, just the 1,000 Demon Emperor instructors were enough to ensure that no one could shake the Academy's position. Moreover, the system had also rewarded him with a Demon Sovereign. If he was not mistaken, this Demon Sovereign would have a cultivation level above the Demon Emperor realm. Furthermore, he was rewarded with an inferior fire vein. One had to know that there was only one inferior fire vein in the entire Tianyuan kingdom, and that was in the Tianyuan Academy. Most importantly, Yi Hao looked at the rewards from the system. The system wanted to nurture talents in all aspects for him. Military, alchemy, artifact forging. Basically, the system had considered all professions. Originally, Yi Hao had been worried about the establishment of the academy and the follow-up work. After all, it wasn't as if he could just take in the students after establishing the academy. He still had to teach and nurture these students. The follow-up resources were definitely not easy to gather. Originally, Yi Hao had planned to establish the academy first, and then slowly recruit instructors and students to expand the academy. However, the system had given him this task. It was like a heavenly melody. As long as he recruited 100,000 students, he wouldn't have to worry about the follow-up work at all. The system would take care of it for him. He could do it in one go. My lord, then when can our children join the academy? That's right, my lord. When can we sign up? I'll be the first to sign up. How many students does my lord want to recruit? At this moment, many people were already thinking about signing up. However, even more people were worried about the limited number of places. Everyone, don't worry. The academy will recruit 100,000 students. Yi Hao said when he heard the discussions. What? 100,000? My lord, how is the allocation of the academy? Many people didn't look happy when they heard Yi Hao. Instead, they looked worried. After all, the strength of an academy wasn't determined by the number of students. It was also related to the strength of the instructors. After all, the stronger the instructors were, the stronger the students would be. If a teacher wasn't an unrated teacher, then how good could the students he taught be? He would just be misleading the students. Apart from the instructors, the cultivation techniques were also essential. At this moment, many people were worried about whether Yi Hao could find so many instructors and cultivation techniques. After all, Yi Hao's appetite was too big. He wanted to recruit 100,000 students. One should know that the total number of teachers and students in Tianyuan Academy was estimated to be 100,000. This was because Tianyuan Academy had developed for thousands of years and had the support of the Tianyuan kingdom. However, Yi Hao wanted to establish an academy with 100,000 students. Wasn't that going against Tianyuan Academy? Many people were even worried that Yi Hao was biting off more than he could chew. Even Mulong and the White Dragon were looking at Yi Hao in shock. Establishing an academy was what they wanted to see. It wasn't just to send their next generation to study in the academy. Moreover, the talents nurtured by the students were nurtured for Yi Hao's sake. They had already grown up and were Yi Hao's strength. However, even they felt that Yi Hao was too arrogant. However, as Yi Hao's subordinates, they also knew that they couldn't speak casually on such an occasion. Otherwise, it would hurt Yi Hao's reputation. Everyone, don't worry. The instructors of the academy will be allocated 1,000 demon emperors and 1 demon supremacy. Yi Hao also knew what everyone was worried about. He directly threw out a heavy bomb. 1,000? 1,000 demon emperors? Did I hear wrongly? This was the thought in everyone's mind at this moment. At this moment, everyone was looking at Yi Hao in shock. Even though their loyalty to Yi Hao was unquestionable, they couldn't believe Yi Hao's words at this moment. After all, those were demon emperors. In their eyes, they were godlike existences that couldn't be reached. Those weren't cabbages. It wasn't as if one could just casually grab a bunch of them. How could everyone believe this? After all, the strongest Sun Yuan and Sun Yuansheng was only at the Demon King level in the past. Everyone already felt that they couldn't fight against him. However, these were demon emperors who were even stronger than demon kings. Moreover, there were 1,000 of them. If Yi Hao really had 1,000 demon emperors, he didn't need to care about the 8 big families under House Yu at all. Moreover, who was Yi Hao to be able to find 1,000 demon emperors? Chapter 729. Uncle White Dragon, Mulong, you two will be in charge of recruiting students from the first and second city. Yi Hao said to White Dragon and Mulong after leaving the military camp. But Lord, where should we set up our academy? Mulong suddenly asked. Yi Hao couldn't help but feel a little awkward. He really hadn't thought this through. Where do you think we should set up our academy? Yi Hao suppressed the awkwardness in his heart and asked the two of them. The two of them blushed with shame. After all this time, Yi Hao hadn't even decided on the academy's location. Lord, why don't we set up our academy here? This is definitely an excellent location. White Dragon took out the map and suggested. Yi Hao looked at the location on the map. The back of the city was facing the magical beast forest. It could be said that it was a natural training ground. The front was the second city, and the side was the first city. Most importantly, this location was very spacious. Yi Hao looked at the location and was very satisfied. However, Yi Hao immediately frowned. What's up with these 3 cities? Yi Hao realized that there was a city on both sides of the first and second city. Moreover, there was another city in between the first and second city. These 3 cities could be said to be a pincer attack on the first and second city. This was something that Yi Hao couldn't tolerate. After all, how could he allow a fierce tiger to sleep beside his bed? Lord, this is what I'm worried about. Among these 3 cities, you don't have to worry about Zhoujiang City. This Zhoujiang City is the same as the previous castle of the kings. It's under Sun Yuanqing's management. However, the troublesome ones are these 2 cities. White Dragon pointed at the 3 cities on the map and said. Yi Hao nodded and motioned for White Dragon to continue. It turned out that the remaining 2 cities were Black Wind City and Meteor Trail City. These 2 cities were brother cities and were controlled by the same family. Their overall strength was stronger than the previous Sun Yuanqing. However, this didn't mean much. What was important was that these 2 cities were subordinate cities of Hongtian City. Furthermore, the difference between Sun Yuanqing and Hongtian City was that Sun Yuanqing had completely relied on Hongtian City to back him up, while Hongtian City had obtained benefits from Sun Yuanqing. Between the 2, it was completely similar to the form of protection fees. As long as the disaster was imminent, they would fly away separately. As for the He clan that controlled Blackwind City and Meteor Trail City, they did not only have such a relationship with Hongtian City. Most importantly, in recent years, the He clan had been sending young and beautiful women to Hongtian City to marry into the Hong clan. Regardless of the man's status in Hongtian City, as long as he was a member of the Hong clan, the He clan would not let him off. Thus, if something were to happen to the He clan, Hongtian City would not sit idly by. No one can stop me from establishing the academy. Whether it's the He clan or Hongtian City, I will destroy them all. Yi Hao said domineeringly. Yi Hao would not give up on establishing an academy just because of Hongtian City. After all, it was related to the rewards. Putting everything else aside, just the 1,000 demon emperors would be enough to wipe out Hongtian City. Yi Hao would not cower just because of Hongtian City. Mu Long and the White Dragon looked at each other. They were finding it harder and harder to see through Yi Hao. This was because in their eyes, Yi Hao seemed to be really fearless. However, Yi Hao's next sentence almost made the 2 of them kneel down in fear. Not to mention Hongtian City, I have just killed that so-called domain lord, the young master of the Yu clan. Yi Hao thought about Yu Long's identity. He was definitely stronger than the Hong clan. After all, the Yu clan was the domain lord, while Hongtian City was just one of the 8 great clans under the Yu clan. Yi Hao had even offended the Yu clan. Thus, he did not mind offending Hongtian City. What? Domain lord? Hearing Yi Hao's words, the White Dragon and Mu Long were so frightened that their faces turned pale. One must know that in their eyes, the domain lord was definitely the overlord of the domain. He was the local tyrant of the domain. As long as the domain lord gave the order, no matter which city he wanted to destroy, that city would not have a chance to survive. One must know that there used to be 13 great clans in the Rain Domain. It was because 5 of the great clans disobeyed the orders of the Yu clan. In one night, the 5 great clans were completely annihilated. Since then, no one dared to doubt the position of the Yu clan. The remaining 8 great clans became even more obedient towards the Yu clan. However, Yi Hao actually dared to kill the young master of the Yu clan. That was openly going against the Yu clan. According to the temper of the Yu clan, in order to protect their dignity, they would definitely not let Yi Hao go so easily. May I know the name of the person Master killed? How strong is he? The White Dragon was already sweating profusely as he asked carefully. Yi Hao looked at the pale-faced white dragon, and Mulong Yi Hao did not expect the Yu clan to have such a strong deterrent force. It actually made the white dragon and Mulong's expressions change. However, Yi Hao still said, "This person is called Yulong. He is a level 1 demon emperor. He has a demon supreme as his bodyguard." The white dragon had never heard of Yulong's name before, but after hearing Yi Hao's description, he said with certainty, "This person must be a direct descendant of the Yu clan. I think we're in big trouble this time. After all, how could a person who had a demon supreme as his bodyguard have a low status in the Yu clan? Moreover, Yulong was already a level 1 demon emperor at such a young age. This meant that Yulong's talent was not bad. He must have been heavily nurtured by the Yu clan. How could the Yu clan let something like this happen to a disciple of the Yu clan? All right, let's not talk about this. You two are in charge of recruiting students. At the same time, gather the craftsmen and prepare to build the academy." Yi Hao did not want to talk about this. In his opinion, he had to deal with whatever came his way. It was useless to think about this now. It was more practical to complete the mission given by the system. If there were 1,000 demon emperors to help, even the Yu clan would have to think twice. Yes, the white dragon and Mulong nodded. They felt more and more that they could not see through Yi Hao's heart. To be able to offend the Yu clan and still focus on building the academy, only Yi Hao could do it. If this happened to anyone else, they would be frustrated and thinking about how to deal with the Yu clan. The two only looked at each other after Yi Hao left. "Old Master White, what do you think the Lord's identity is? And the 1,000 demon emperors the Lord mentioned, are they real?" Mulong looked at the white dragon and asked. The white dragon shook his head and smiled bitterly. "This old man is blind. I can't see through the Lord's identity at all. As for the 1,000 demon emperors, I don't even know. If there really is 1,000 demon emperors, we don't have to be afraid of the Yu clan." Mulong murmured. Thinking about how Yi Hao had 1,000 demon emperors under his command, Mulong's eyes burned with passion. But that's 1,000 demon emperors. Are there really that many demon emperors in a place like this? The white dragon was still in disbelief. Chapter 730. Hey, have you heard? That city Lord Yi is going to recruit students, and he wants to recruit 100,000 students. I've heard about it long ago, and these 100,000 students don't even have to pay tuition fees, and there are 1,000 Demon Emperor instructors to teach them. What? Was this real or fake? 1,000 Demon Emperor instructors. Did you hear wrongly? How could I have heard wrongly? I have a friend in the Third Army, and he told me personally. But can there really be 1,000 Demon Emperor instructors? And they don't even have to pay tuition fees? Could it be a scam? Who cares if it's a scam or not? It's better to believe it than not. What if it's true? And with our poor looks, what's there to be scammed? Also, you saw the equipment of the Third Army, and you can tell that City Lord Yi has a great background. What you said makes sense. I'm dying of envy for the equipment of the Third Army. Unfortunately, I'm a little old, otherwise, I would definitely join the army. That's why we didn't seize the opportunity, but our children can't miss this opportunity. Otherwise, it'll be too late for regrets. Then what are we talking about? Let's go and sign up. Don't let the quota be full. Yes, 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 let's go. Yi Hao walked to the second city, and he could hear the discussions of the people everywhere, so he couldn't help but nod his head in satisfaction. This way, at least he didn't have to worry about the quota of students. Therefore, it was urgent to build up the students now. After all, having 1,000 Demon Emperor subordinates, Yi Hao was also looking forward to it. Most importantly, there was also a Demon Emperor level powerhouse. Thinking about the strength that Elder One had displayed back then, Yi Hao was envious. And soon, he would have such subordinates, so how could he not look forward to it? And he would have 10,000 refining rooms and 10,000 alchemy furnaces. When the time came to nurture disciples in this area, then his army wouldn't have to worry about elixirs and weapons. Looks like it's time to make a move. Yi Hao glanced at the sky that was almost dark and made a decision in his heart. My lord, it hasn't even been a day, and we've already recruited 30,000 students. Mulong walked to Yi Hao and said excitedly. He also didn't expect there to be so many people signing up. These were only the people from the second city. The people from the first city had yet to register. At this rate, the recruitment of 100,000 students would be completed in less than 3 days. So many. Even though Yi Hao was mentally prepared, he was still a little surprised when he heard the numbers that Mu Long reported. It could be seen how attractive the academy was to the commoners. "My lord, I've already found the construction workers. When will we start?" At this time, the White Dragon also walked over and said to Yi Hao, "General Mu Long, how are the students gathering? Do we have 10,000 people?" The White Dragon asked worriedly. 10,000. Mu Long was stunned when he heard the White Dragon's words. "Don't tell me you don't? Then there should be at least 8,000. Seeing Mu Long's appearance, the White Dragon thought that he had not recruited 10,000 people, and his tone was somewhat anxious. After all, this matter was related to Yi Hao's reputation. After all, Yi Hao had said that he wanted to recruit 100,000 students. If he did not manage to recruit 10,000 in the end, it would definitely damage Yi Hao's reputation. This was something that he absolutely didn't want to see. Putting aside the relationship between Bai Yuner and Yi Hao, as Yi Hao's subordinate, he also didn't want to see this happen. "Master White Dragon, you didn't misunderstand. We are recruiting nearly 30,000 students today," Mu Long immediately said with a smile when he saw the White Dragon's anxious expression. "What? 30,000 students? So many? You must be joking." The White Dragon was shocked when he heard Mu Long's words. "These are only the people from the second city. If the people from the first city knew about this, there would probably be more people signing up. You must know that my first army is almost dead busy." Mu Long continued to smile. The White Dragon couldn't help but look at Yi Hao in surprise. It turned out that he had underestimated Yi Hao's influence. It was only the first day, and more than 30,000 people had signed up. Wouldn't it be easy for Yi Hao to recruit 100,000 students? "Your Majesty, everything is ready. All that's left is the construction of the academy." The White Dragon looked at Yi Hao and said, "This is why I asked you to come. I plan to send out the army tonight and destroy these 3 cities. Yi Hao walked to the side of the map and pointed at Black Wind City and the other 2 cities. "So fast? But our second army only has 10,000 soldiers." Mu Long said. This was because other than the 1,000 people from the first army, the second army had brought 20,000 soldiers. Only the 10,000 soldiers that Yi Hao had brought with him were at the peak of the Demon Guard and could fight against Black Wind City. And the 10,000 soldiers that the White Dragon had brought with him were at the second or third rank of the Demon Guard. These 10,000 soldiers could still deal with Zhoujiang City. But the 10,000 peak Demon Guard soldiers could probably only deal with Black Wind City or Meteor Trail City. After all, whether it was Black Wind City or Meteor Trail City, their strength was not inferior to Sun Yuancheng, so they were even more difficult to deal with. Since Yi Hao wanted to attack, he definitely wanted to take down Black Wind City and Meteor Trail City in one fell swoop. Otherwise, if he only attacked one city, because the 2 cities were too close, the other side might send reinforcements as soon as the war started. And if both sides fought together, it was obvious that Yi Hao's 10,000 peak Demon Guard soldiers were not enough. "Mu Long, listen to my order." Yi Hao's expression suddenly tightened as he looked at Mu Long. "This general listens to your order." Hearing Yi Hao's serious tone, Mu Long's expression also shook. He hurriedly knelt on one knee and waited for Yi Hao's order. "I order you to lead the 300 soldiers of the First Army and the 10,000 low-rank Demon Guard soldiers of the Second Army. Before noon tomorrow, take down Zhoujiang City. Can you do it?" Hearing Yi Hao's order, Mu Long immediately received the order and said, "This general orders that tomorrow at noon, this general will definitely make the city walls of Zhoujiang City hang the flag with the word, because the soldiers that Yi Hao gave him could definitely allow him to sweep through Zhoujiang City." "Yin Liang, listen to my order," Yi Hao said again. Hearing Yi Hao's voice, Yin Liang immediately walked in from outside the tent and knelt on one knee. "This general is here. Yin Liang, I order you to be the temporary commander of the Second Army. Lead 10,000 peak Demon Guard soldiers and take down Black Wind City tomorrow. Can you do it? This general obeys. Hearing Yi Hao's order, Yin Liang was expressionless as he accepted the order. In his opinion, the small Black Wind City could be taken down in an instant. White Dragon, listen to my order. Yi Hao once again turned his gaze to the White Dragon. The White Dragon's heart tightened. He thought that Yi Hao wouldn't want him to attack Meteor Trail City, right? That was thinking too highly of him. Before he could speak, Yi Hao said, "Lead the craftsmen and prepare to build an academy for me tomorrow." Chapter 731. My lord, have you forgotten that there's still Meteor Trail City? White Dragon reminded carefully as he looked at Yi Hao. After all, Yi Hao had sent everyone out to deal with Zhou City and Black Wind City, leaving Meteor Trail City behind. If they allowed Starfire City to counterattack, then they would lose everything. Even Mulong and Yin Liang, who were about to go down, could not help but stop in their tracks and look at Yi Hao. If not for White Dragon's words, they would have almost ignored Meteor Trail City. They also knew that Meteor Trail City could not be underestimated. My lord, why don't I send half of my men to stop Meteor Trail City? I will definitely take down Black Wind City. Yin Liang said, No, that's too risky. Moreover, who said that we don't have any men? We still have the Third Army. Yi Hao naturally knew what the three of them were thinking and immediately said with a smile, The Third Army? The three of them were stunned. But my lord, the Third Army has yet to form a scale and has yet to form a combat power. White Dragon immediately said, That's right, my lord. If we let the Third Army deal with Meteor Trail City, we will definitely suffer heavy losses. Why don't we postpone it for a period of time before attacking them? Mulong also said with a worried face. Yin Liang did not say anything, but the expression on his face also showed that he did not think highly of the Third Army. Although the soldiers of the Third Army had a higher starting point than the soldiers of the Second Army, it was still a distance away. Their average strength was only around the second or third level of the Demon Guard. Moreover, they had only been recruited for a day or so. The cooperation of the entire army was still equivalent to 0 and could not be compared to the Second Army. To put it bluntly, this Third Army was a disorganized army with equipment. If they were to fight against Meteor Trail City, they would all be sending themselves to their deaths. I know that you are worried about the strength of the Third Army, but don't forget how the peak of the 10,000 Demon Guards of the Second Army came about. Yi Hao said with a smile. Hearing Yi Hao's words, the three of them were shocked and could no longer speak. Only then did they remember that the peak of the 10,000 Demon Guards of the Second Army were all raised by Yi Hao alone. If Yi Hao could raise the strength of the Second Division, why couldn't he raise the strength of the Third Division? Master, could it be that you still have so many pills? Mulong asked in surprise. He knew that Yi Hao had used tens of thousands of pills to raise the 10,000 soldiers to the peak of Devil Guard and the 100 soldiers of the First Legion to the peak of Devil General. Mulong found it very hard to imagine who would carry around so many medicinal pills. Furthermore, it was still so heaven-defying that it could directly increase one's cultivation without any side effects. Mulong could imagine that if people knew that Yi Hao had so many elixirs on him, some of the experts would probably not be able to resist the urge to snatch them away. After all, Yi Hao's actions were too frightening. That was tens of thousands of pills. Not to mention the pills, Yi Hao had taken out more than 200,000 sets of equipment for the Second and Third Legions. Sometimes, he even wondered if Yi Hao had robbed some country's military warehouse. All right, Mulong, Uncle White Dragon, these pills are for you. Yi Hao suddenly took out more than a dozen pills and handed them to Mulong and the White Dragon. What are these? Mulong and the White Dragon took the pills respectively. They were both happy and curious. They were happy because they knew that the things that Yi Hao had given them were definitely good stuff. Devil Lord pills. These are enough for you to break through to the peak of Devil Lord, Yi Hao explained. These pills were the rewards that the system had given him from the 100,000 soldiers of the Second Division. Moreover, the rewards this time were much more powerful than the previous ones. The previous rewards were only Devil General level pills. This time, the system was very generous and gave him 1,000 Devil Lord level pills. There were also 10,000 Devil General level pills and 100,000 Devil Guard level pills. What was different from the previous time was that the number of pills this time was 10 times more than the Devil General level pills. There were also 1,000 Devil Lord level pills. Only the number of Devil Guard level pills remained the same. Yihao was also very puzzled at the time and asked the system what was going on. It turned out that the rewards from the system were also related to the cultivation level of the soldiers that Yihao had recruited. The system tacitly agreed that the higher the cultivation level of the soldiers that Yihao recruited, the better the rewards. Yihao's eyes couldn't help but burn. According to the system, it seemed that the higher the cultivation level of the soldiers that he recruited in the future, the better the pills might be. This was definitely good news for Yihao. After all, when he recruited soldiers in the future, he couldn't always recruit such low-level cultivators. If he recruited cultivators with high cultivation bases and the system rewarded him with low-level pills, Yihao would be crying in his heart. Break through to the peak of Devil Lord. Hearing Yihao's words, the hands of the two trembled and they almost dropped the pills in their hands. After all, these were pills to break through to the peak of Devil Lord. In the past, Devil Lord was so high that they couldn't reach it. As for the Devil Lord realm, they could only dream of it. Perhaps their greatest wish was to reach the Devil Lord realm. They didn't expect that they would have the strength of a Devil Lord so soon. Moreover, it was the peak of Devil Lord realm. Hurry up and eat. Seeing that the two of them were still in a state of shock, Yihao said with a smile, "Thank you, Lord." The two of them finally reacted and thanked Yihao in unison. Then, the two of them didn't stand on ceremony and directly put the pills into their mouths. Boom! Boom! What shocked the two of them was that the pills didn't need to be digested when they entered their mouths. The two of them had broken through to the next level in an instant. The two of them didn't feel uncomfortable at all. They only felt refreshed, and at the same time, their cultivation level became stronger. When the two of them saw this, they immediately put all the remaining pills into their mouths. There weren't any side effects after using so many pills at the same time. And just like the first pill, all the pills were automatically digested in their bodies and turned into their cultivation level. After half a day, the white dragon opened his eyes first with an excited expression. "Thank you, Lord. My cultivation level has reached the peak of Devil Lord realm, and there aren't any side effects." "Haha, Lord, this is simply a divine pill." "Thank you, Lord." Feeling that his cultivation level had really reached the peak of Devil Lord realm, Mulong was also very excited, and he realized that although his cultivation level had increased by a large realm, it was very stable and there weren't any signs of weakness. At first, he was still worried that although his cultivation level had increased to the peak of Devil Lord realm, he couldn't bring out the strength of a peak Devil Lord. But now, his worries were swept away. "All right, you can set off now." Seeing that the two of them had broken through to the next level, Yihao ordered. "Yes." The two of them replied in unison. At this time, they no longer doubted Yihao. Chapter 732. After seeing them leave, Yihao looked at the sky and walked towards the Third Legion. "Emergency assembly," Yihao said to the soldier in charge of beating the drums. Dong! 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 All of a sudden, urgent war drums sounded, and the tents of the various military camps lit up. Not long after, sporadic soldiers ran over with weapons in their hands. What's going on? Why is there an emergency assembly in the middle of the night? Could there be enemies? Oh my God, I just fell asleep. It's really killing me. Suddenly, the entire barracks was filled with discussions. Due to the fact that these people had not undergone any formal training, the majority of them were still grumbling after being woken up. There were many soldiers running over, but there were even more who were walking over in a hustle and bustle. Even the soldier in charge of beating the drums could not take it anymore. "My lord, this..." Yihao waved his hand to indicate that it was fine. He stood quietly at the side and watched the scene unfold. It took more than an hour for the entire army to assemble. Yihao was very disappointed. If this had been an enemy attack, these people would have died a long time ago. Why is there an emergency assembly in the middle of the night? Can't we sleep? That's right. We still have training tomorrow. Are they going to let me live or not? I'm so tired. As Yi Hao was standing behind the drums, most of the soldiers did not see Yi Hao. Their complaints became louder. Everyone is complaining a lot. Suddenly, he channeled his energy and let his voice spread out. It exploded in the air above the 100,000 soldiers. When they heard Yi Hao's voice, everyone's expression changed. They immediately quieted down and knelt on one knee. Greetings, my lord. 2 hours. This is an emergency assembly. All of you need 2 hours. If this is an enemy attack, tell me what to do. Yi Hao said coldly. Of course, there are also those who performed well. They arrived here the instant the war drums sounded. I am very satisfied with their performance. Yi Hao's gaze swept over the group of soldiers that had arrived first and praised them without any trace of politeness. When the soldiers heard Yi Hao's praise, they could not help but puff out their chests and look proud. As for the rest, they kept their heads down and knelt on one knee. Since there is such a big difference, of course there will be rewards and punishments. Listen up, Yi Hao suddenly said coldly. The soldiers immediately pricked up their ears. They wanted to hear what Yi Hao's rewards and punishments were. The 10,000 of you, step forward. Yi Hao pointed at the 10,000 soldiers who had arrived first. When they heard Yi Hao's command, they immediately stood up and walked to the front of the army nervously. The rest of the soldiers kneeling on the ground all raised their heads, wanting to see what kind of reward Yi Hao was going to give them. Distribute these elixir pills. Yi Hao ordered the 100 peak demon generals beside him. At the same time, he took out a large number of demon guard upgrade elixirs. Elixir pills? What kind of elixir pills are these? Everyone looked curiously at Yi Hao as he took out tens of thousands of elixir pills. They did not know what these elixir pills were. However, even though they did not know what these elixir pills were, they were enough to make everyone boil over. This was because they all knew how expensive these elixir pills were. In the past, most of the people here had only heard of elixir pills. However, they had never seen elixir pills before. Most of them had never eaten elixir pills before. After all, what Yi Hao had given them previously were merely strengthening elixirs and aptitude elixirs. Those were all liquids and not elixirs. Now that they saw so many elixir pills appear, they were addicted to the sight. All of them were envious and kept swallowing their saliva. Are these elixir pills for me? Are they for real? A level 1 demon guard trembled as he took the 9 elixir pills. His voice was filled with disbelief. Are these really for me? There are so many elixir pills. Oh my God, I feel like my heart is about to jump out of my chest. The 10,000 soldiers were so excited that they spoke incoherently as they took the elixir pills. Their hands were trembling. Although I don't know what elixir pills these are, it's enviable to give so many at once. If the Lord can take out so many at once, I reckon that these elixir pills can't be too good. Even if they are inferior elixir pills, we have never eaten them before. The 90,000 soldiers who were kneeling on the ground looked at the elixir pills enviously. Their voices were tinged with regret. If they had rushed here earlier, they might have been the ones receiving the elixir pills now. Upon hearing the whispers of the 90,000 soldiers, the demon general who had given out the elixir pills looked amused. You only know how to regret it now. I reckon that your intestines will turn green with regret later. These 100 peak demon generals had all eaten these level-up elixirs before. Naturally, they knew what these elixir pills were. All right, you can all begin to break through, Yi Hao said as he sat on a chair after seeing that the elixir pills had been distributed. Breakthrough? Could it be that the Lord distributed these elixir pills to assist in cultivation? What? Elixir pills that assist in cultivation are extremely precious. These people have really profited greatly. I reckon that with so many elixir pills, they will at least be able to break through 1 or 2 levels. That's a breakthrough of 1 or 2 levels. It's too enviable. If only these were given to me. Upon hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone's attention was focused on the word breakthrough. Everyone was speculating as they looked on enviously. It had to be known that what they yearned for the most was strength. How could they not be envious when they saw other soldiers holding a large number of elixir pills? Furthermore, what made them even more envious was that most of these soldiers' cultivation bases were inferior to theirs. At the same time that they were envious, they felt even more regret. This was because they could imagine that if they had arrived a little earlier, they might have become the ones envied by others. They wouldn't have knelt here and watched others hold a handful of elixir pills. When the 10,000 soldiers heard Yi Hao's words, they all felt their blood boil and their hearts become even more excited. They also didn't expect that Yi Hao would give them so many elixir pills to assist in cultivation. In any case, as long as it was a pill, even if it was the worst one, then according to their cultivation, as long as they weren't pigs, they would definitely be able to break through 1 or 2 levels. In their opinion, breaking through 1 or 2 levels would save them several months of bitter cultivation. Moreover, they could also raise their status in the army. How could they not be excited? Beneath the envious gazes of 90,000 soldiers, the soldiers excitedly and nervously placed a pill in their mouths. This was because most people's cultivation bases were too low and they didn't care about advancing. They were afraid that their bodies wouldn't be able to withstand the medicinal efficacy, so they only dared to place a pill in their mouths. Chapter 733. Boom! Suddenly, the aura of one of the soldiers surged. Everyone could tell that this person had broken through. It seems that this person is on the verge of breaking through. Now that he has taken the pill, he broke through in one go. He is indeed lucky. Someone analyzed when they saw this person break through. I think so too. I don't think it will be so easy to break through later. I wonder how many lucky people will be like him. The 90,000 soldiers were envious of the person who had broken through, but they still discussed stubbornly. They wanted to give themselves a reason to get rid of their regrets. However, before they could continue discussing, a series of auras surged out. Boom, 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 boom. Everyone watched in disbelief as the 10,000 soldiers broke through one after another. This can't be a coincidence, right? The 90,000 soldiers felt that their eyes were about to pop out. It wasn't just the 90,000 soldiers. Even the 10,000 soldiers who had broken through were dumbfounded. I broke through? Didn't I just break through? How did I break through again so quickly? How did I break through so easily? I didn't even have time to refine the pill. What kind of pill is this? It doesn't have any side effects at all. Most of the 10,000 soldiers thought so. Although the breakthrough made them happy, they were all afraid that Yi Hao had given them some kind of pill that could stimulate their potential. After using it, they would be able to increase their strength quickly. However, once the effects of the pill passed, they would suffer a backlash. The consequences of that would be harming the enemy at the expense of their own forces. It would not be worth it. However, when they hurriedly checked their own bodies, they discovered that this power was indeed theirs. This power was actually obtained through a breakthrough. Only then did they feel relieved. When they saw how powerful the pill was, they no longer had any doubts and swallowed the pill. They looked as if they were afraid that someone would snatch it from them. Boom, 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 boom. The aura and power of the breakthrough continued to surge, causing the jaws of the 90,000 soldiers to drop. Oh my God, how many breakthroughs have they had? Everyone has broken through at least 3 times, and they're still breaking through. It's already been 4 times. No, 5 times. This is simply insane. I feel like my heart can't take it anymore. This is too scary. Just what kind of pill is this? How is it possible for me to achieve a breakthrough just by eating one? At this moment, the 90,000 soldiers were staring intently at the 10,000 soldiers who were continuously breaking through. Pinch me. I'm not dreaming, am I? Why wasn't I the one who broke through? I'm regretting it now. Why did I hesitate to wear my equipment? Next time, I'll definitely be the first to finish wearing my equipment. At this moment, an annoyed voice rang out in the sky above the 90,000 people. No way, they're still breaking through. Everyone stared blankly at the 10,000 people who were still breaking through. Their faces were ashen, and the word regret was written all over their faces. As for the 100 peak demon generals, They seemed to have long expected this scene. Each and every one of them had smiles on their faces. Peak of the Infernal Guard, they've all broken through to the peak of the Infernal Guard. I regret it. Why wasn't I the one who broke through? That's the peak of the Devil Guard, a realm that I've always dreamed of. I can't take it anymore. I even have the heart to die. Looking at the 10,000 soldiers who had all reached the peak of the Devil Guard realm, the only word that could be used to describe the emotions of these 90,000 soldiers was regret. At this moment, these 90,000 soldiers were watching the soldiers whose cultivation levels were about the same or even lower than theirs break through to the peak of the Devil Guard realm in the blink of an eye, leaving them far behind. Each and every one of them had the heart to die. After all, based on their cultivation and breakthrough speed, it would take them at least a few years to reach the peak of the Devil Guard realm. Just because they were late by 2 hours, they had to use a few years to make up for it. How could they not regret it? If they could turn back time, they would definitely have arrived before Yeehaw the instant the war drums sounded. I've never heard of any pill that could allow someone to break through so much in one go. What do you mean? Could it be that the Lord gave them an evil pill that stimulated their potential? I didn't say that. Suddenly, this voice rang out from the 90,000 soldiers. Immediately, everyone's faces tightened, and they couldn't help but feel suspicious. Indeed, they all knew that pills were powerful. However, no matter how powerful a pill was, it still had to be refined to aid one's cultivation. However, they had seen with their own eyes that these 10,000 soldiers had broken through one by one without refining the pill at all. Furthermore, each and every one of them had broken through to the 6th or 7th level of cultivation. This could only be described as heaven-defying. Apart from an evil pill that stimulated one's potential, they couldn't think of any other pill that could achieve this. The more the crowd thought about it, the more they felt that this was the case. Their gazes towards the 10,000 soldiers changed from envy to pity. But this is absolutely impossible. How could the Lord harm his own subordinates? Everyone knows that this kind of pill can harm the enemy by 1,000, but also oneself by 800. Unless it's absolutely necessary, it's absolutely not something that should be used. That's right. If the Lord let them take it, it will only harm them. There's no benefit. I feel that the Lord is definitely not that kind of person. He definitely wouldn't use an evil pill on his subordinates. Just as everyone felt that Yeehaw had taken out an evil pill, many people who believed in Yeehaw spoke up. I heard that there's a time limit to the use of this kind of evil pill. If it's really an evil pill, their cultivation won't last long. I heard that too. Furthermore, they've improved so much. If it's really an evil pill, their cultivation will drop drastically before daybreak. Whether it's an evil pill or not, we'll know at daybreak. Another group of people spoke up. Right now, everyone was still half believing and half doubting. However, the majority of them believed that Yeehaw had given them an evil pill. They couldn't be blamed. After all, they had never seen such a powerful advancement pill before. Only the 10,000 soldiers who had broken through to the peak of the Demon Guard knew that what they had taken was definitely not an evil pill. That was because at this moment, they felt that the power in their bodies completely belonged to them. It wasn't a power that had appeared out of nowhere. At this moment, they felt refreshed and their faces were brimming with smiles. Thank you, Lord. Suddenly, the 10,000 soldiers knelt on the ground and shouted in unison to Yeehaw, "All of you, prepare to follow me into battle." Yeehaw waved his longsword. Then, Yeehaw glanced at the remaining 90,000 soldiers. Since I said that there would be rewards and punishments, I've already given out the rewards. As for the punishments, you will kneel here and wait for our triumphant return. Whoever dares to move will be dealt with according to military law. Chapter 734. The 90,000 soldiers instantly had bitter expressions. There were still a few hours before daybreak. Furthermore, who knew when Yeehaw would return victorious? He actually made them kneel here. Who knew how long they would have to kneel? Furthermore, as soldiers, they watched others go to war while they stayed behind. Furthermore, they stayed behind while kneeling. To them, This was undoubtedly a humiliation. If word got out, they would definitely lose all face. If others heard this, they would definitely laugh their heads off. Although they thought so, none of them dared to complain in their hearts. All of them could only watch as Yi Hao left with the 10,000 soldiers. The most terrible thing was that everyone in Yi Hao's First Legion, including the 100 peak demon generals, stay behind. Furthermore, Yi Hao also left behind more than 20 green wolves. The green wolves all had the strength of demon generals. As they wandered through the crowd, the soldiers did not dare to move recklessly. Yi Hao's target was Meteor Trail City. However, Yi Hao did not lead the soldiers to Meteor Trail City. This was because, according to the information he received, Meteor Trail City's army had more than 20,000 soldiers. Although they were not as strong as his soldiers, their strength had reached the peak demon guard level. However, they would not be too weak. Furthermore, they had the advantage in numbers and were a group of veterans. It was definitely not something that his group of green melon eggs could compare to. Therefore, if he attacked Meteor Trail City, it would be even more difficult for him to break through the city walls. However, if he were to suddenly attack the people from Meteor Trail City who were supporting Black Wind City on the way, he would definitely catch Meteor Trail City off guard. Yi Hao had already chosen the location. Black Wind Town was the best place. Black Wind Town was just a small town. As it was close to Black Wind City, it was equally famous as Black Wind City. However, it was not eye-catching at all. However, it was this inconspicuous town that was the only path from Meteor Trail City to Black Wind City. Yi Hao prepared to stop the reinforcements from Meteor Trail City at Black Wind Town. Yi Hao led the army to Black Wind Town and immediately ordered the soldiers to take control of the entire town. The more critical the moment was, the more Yi Hao could not tolerate any mistakes. Yi Hao thought for a moment. To be on the safe side, Yi Hao still took out the 10,000 demon general leveling pills. In the end, Yi Hao gave these pills to 1,000 people to consume. The cultivation of these 1,000 people had also reached the peak demon general level. However, Yi Hao was still not satisfied. He took out another 1,000 Demon King leveling pills and picked another 100 peak demon generals to consume. Looking at the 100 peak demon kings and 900 peak demon generals, Yi Hao felt relieved. He was now in the 3rd Legion. With such a battle prowess, he would definitely be able to stop Meteor Trail City. Even wiping them out in one fell swoop was not impossible. In the direction of Zhoujiang City, at this moment, the gates of Zhoujiang City were tightly locked, and the city walls were filled with people. Many people dressed in luxurious clothing were standing on the city walls. At this moment, they were standing on the city walls with anxious expressions. Most of them were the disciples of the various clans. They were all looking at the city below with fear. Below the city, dozens of banners with the word Yi fluttered in the wind, making rustling sounds. In this relatively quiet atmosphere, it made the people of Zhou General City even more anxious. What made them fear the most was the 10,000 neatly dressed army. They looked very imposing. Patriarch Zhou, do you know where this army came from? They even have the word Yi. I've never heard of it. Furthermore, even Black Wind City and Meteor Trail City would not be able to take out such a well-equipped army. If I'm not wrong, these people's equipment are all top-quality Demon Guard equipment. I reckon our Zhou General City would not be able to take out more than a few sets. At this moment, several patriarchs looked at a middle-aged man anxiously. This man was a peak demon general. In this Zhou General City, he could be considered a top expert. But at this moment, he had a worried expression, because he could tell at a glance that this 10,000 well-equipped army had cultivations of 3rd or 4th level Demon Guard. Although their strength was on the low side, it was not something that the few clans in this Zhou General City could fight against. Furthermore, with their equipment, the fighting strength of this group of soldiers was at least 7th or 8th level. It made him feel even more powerless. Furthermore, what made him the most shocked was that the aura of the 300 people of the 1st Legion was not weaker than his. Furthermore, the equipment of those 300 people, if he guessed correctly, was at least Demon King level equipment. That was Demon King level equipment. One could not find a set in the entire Zhou General City. It was something that even he coveted, but now it was being worn by a group of soldiers. Furthermore, it was 300 sets. But when he thought of their strength, Zhou family patriarch could not help but feel a sense of powerlessness. Not to mention the 10,000 army. Just the 300 soldiers of the First Legion were enough to make the entire Zhou General City suffer. How the disciples of every clan arrived? Patriarch Zhou asked. As long as they are cultivators of every clan, they have all been called here. There are about 20,000 people. A patriarch stood out and said, "So many." Even the Zhou family head was slightly surprised. The patriarch scratched his head and said, "But there are many disciples with different surnames. Moreover, regardless of gender or age, they have all been called here. That's why there are so many of them." Hearing this, Patriarch Zhou understood what was going on. Most of these 20,000 people were just there to make up the numbers. As long as they were cultivators, they had been called over. Although there were many people, one could imagine their fighting strength. But no matter what, there were still 20,000 people here, which gave Patriarch Zhou some confidence. Patriarch Zhou calmed his heart and walked forward. He looked at Mu Long and asked, "May I ask who is the general below? What business do you have in Zhou General City?" "I am Mu Long. On the orders of my lord, I have come to conquer Zhou General City," Mu Long said. At the same time, he did not mind releasing his aura. Mu Long knew that before the battle began, he had to use his aura to overwhelm the opponent and make them fear him. Only then would he be able to win without a fight. So strong. He is actually a Demon King expert. Feeling the aura emitted by Mu Long, the faces of the people of Zhou General City changed slightly. Even Patriarch Zhou's face was ashen. He did not see through Mu Long's cultivation before, but he guessed that Mu Long might be a Demon King. But now, looking at the aura emitted by Mu Long, it was definitely not an ordinary Demon King expert. He was at least a high-level Demon King. Chapter 735. Patriarch Zhou. Seeing Patriarch Zhou in a daze, the people behind him immediately shouted. Patriarch Zhou quickly regained his senses, because he was completely shocked by Mu Long's strength just now. Patriarch Zhou tidied up his clothes and coughed awkwardly. "May I ask who your patriarch is?" "You don't need to know. Now you only have two choices, surrender or be destroyed." Mu Long was too lazy to answer Patriarch Zhou. He directly took out his weapon and pointed it at Patriarch Zhou. Ha! 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 The 10,000 soldiers behind him also let out a deafening roar. "I'll give you 30 drums to consider." "Beat the drums." Mu Long spoke again. "After 30 drums, if you don't open the city gates and surrender, the 10,000 soldiers will enter the city and kill you all." Dong! 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 As soon as Mu Long finished speaking, the sound of the war drums was already heard. The sound of the drums beat on the hearts of everyone in Zhou Jiang City. It was like the sound of the bell of death, forcing everyone in Zhou Jiang City to gasp for breath. "Patriarch Zhou, what should we do?" "Patriarch Zhou, quickly make a decision." "Patriarch Zhou, you're the strongest here. You should make a decision." Everyone looked at Patriarch Zhou anxiously. The Zhou family's patriarch was also upset. However, he could also tell that these people's tone carried a hint of submission. It seemed that these people did not want to fight with Mu Long, but they were all concerned about their reputation and were not willing to admit it. Therefore, they all wanted him to open his mouth and surrender. This way, they could achieve their goal and save their reputation. If it wasn't for the fact that the soldiers were at the city gates, Patriarch Zhou swore that he would teach these people a lesson. But when he heard the sound of the drums, Patriarch Zhou was not in the mood to argue with these people. Patriarch Zhou looked at the 10,000 soldiers below who were ready to attack at any time and could not muster up the courage to fight. Just as Patriarch Zhou was about to surrender, a black-clothed man suddenly walked to Patriarch Zhou's side and whispered in his ear. Patriarch Zhou's face suddenly changed. "What? Is what you said true?" Patriarch Zhou's tone revealed a hint of joy. He looked at the black-clothed man to confirm. Patriarch Zhou's change immediately attracted the attention of the other patriarchs. When these family heads saw the black-robed man, their eyes were filled with reverence. This was because they all knew that the black-clothed man was a death warrior trained by the Zhou clan. He was responsible for assassinations or gathering intelligence. Something must have happened for the black-robed man to come here at this time. When the man in black heard Patriarch Zhou's question, he immediately nodded. Everyone, we're saved. Zhou clan's patriarch looked at the men in black and nodded. He immediately smiled and said. Seeing everyone's puzzled expression, Patriarch Zhou immediately said, "This Yi family army actually went to attack Black Wind City." Patriarch Zhou did not know what kind of power Yi Hao belonged to, so he could only refer to Yi Hao's army as the Yi army. What? They actually dared to attack Black Wind City. Is this Yi family army crazy? Could it be that they don't know that Black Wind City and Meteor Trail City are one family? Furthermore, Hong Tian City stand behind them? It seems that this Yi family soldier is courting death. I reckon that we will be saved. Looks like the heavens are on my side. Hearing Patriarch Zhou's words, the worry on the faces of the other patriarchs disappeared, and they all smiled. Because in their opinion, whether it was Black Wind City or Meteor Trail City, they were both inviolable targets. And Yi Hao actually dared to attack Black Wind City. That was purely courting death. They believed that as long as Yi Hao suffered in Black Wind City, then the army below the city would definitely retreat. Everyone, what should we do now? Patriarch Zhou also felt that his mood was very good at this moment and asked in high spirits. As long as we guard the city gate and don't open, let's see what they can do to us. That's right, as long as we persist for a day, they will retreat without a fight. Going against Black Wind City, I reckon that they won't be able to jump around for long. Everyone was abnormal and spoke one after another. In their opinion, if Yi Hao were to start a war with Black Wind City, he would definitely lose. Therefore, there was no need for them to surrender to Mulong. If they surrendered to Mulong and were caught by Black Wind City, then they would be in trouble. Therefore, no matter what, they absolutely could not surrender to Mulong. All right, everyone, defend Zhoujiang City with me and repel the enemy together. When the time comes, we will hold a banquet to celebrate. All right. Hearing Patriarch Zhou's words, many patriarchs echoed in unison. A deputy general walked to Mulong's side and said, "General, there are still 10 war drums. The other party doesn't seem to have any intention of surrendering." Mulong also frowned. He glanced at the city gate that was still tightly shut and said in a deep voice, "Prepare to attack the city. Under the Lord's orders, don't harm the common people. Prepare to attack the city." The deputy general immediately said, The soldiers of the 3 armies immediately prepared to attack. Dong, dong, dong. When the last drum sound fell, Mulong looked at the still, tightly shut city gate and said, "Attack the city. Kill." Mulong took the lead and directly attacked Zhoujiang City. Kill. When the 10,000 soldiers saw Mulong charge out, their battle blood boiled, and they all charged forward with Mulong to kill the enemy. Patriarch Zhou, the Yi family army, is attacking. Hearing the shouts below, even many of the patriarchs felt panic in their hearts. Patriarch Zhou coldly snorted, "What are you afraid of? As long as we defend and don't open the city gate, we will be fine. Get people to shoot." Patriarch Zhou immediately ordered, "Prepare to shoot." A patriarch immediately ordered. Immediately, close to 1,000 people on the city wall raised their bows and arrows. "Shoot!" Patriarch Zhou roared. "Show!" Instantly, the sound of arrows piercing through the air rang out. Close to 1,000 arrows were like a dark cloud that covered the army below. "Continue to shoot." Seeing so many arrows, many of the patriarchs revealed smiles. Patriarch Zhou continued to order. He believed that with so many arrows, it would definitely be enough to make Mulong's army suffer. One must know that these arrows weren't ordinary arrows. They were all arrows of the demon guards. Although their levels were low, they could still cause quite a bit of damage, especially when facing an army of 10,000 people. Furthermore, arrows were originally long-range weapons. To a defensive battle, they were simply godly weapons. These arrows were something that many of the patriarchs had stored up for many years. They were things that they were reluctant to use. But now that they were facing so many enemies, they had no choice but to take out all of these things. Chapter 736. All right, stop shooting. After shooting 3 times in a row, Patriarch Zhou said. His goal was only to stop Mulong. Therefore, these 10,000 arrows couldn't be used up in one go. Hearing Patriarch Zhou's order, the 1,000 over archers immediately stopped attacking. Everyone immediately looked down. Seeing the scene below, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and was instantly stunned, because they saw that the arrows couldn't cause any damage to the armor of the 10,000 troops at all. Only the sound of metal colliding could be heard, and the arrows were bounced out. Moreover, these arrows couldn't even leave a trace on the armor of these 10,000 people. You still have a nerve to take out such trash arrows. Mulong sneered. Hearing Mulong's ridicule, many patriarchs were unable to refute. Seeing that the arrows couldn't stop the 10,000 people army from attacking, and that the 10,000 people army was about to attack the city, the calm and joy on everyone's faces disappeared once again. Prepare to fight. The arrows couldn't cause any damage. This was also something that Patriarch Zhou didn't expect. He originally thought that these arrows could at least cause damage to Mulong's army. As long as he used these arrows to suppress Mulong's army, they wouldn't dare to attack and delay time. When Black Wind City repelled Yi Hao's people, this side would probably be saved. But the result was beyond his expectations. At this moment, he had to make a decision that he didn't want to make. Looking at these 20,000 old, weak, sick, and disabled people, Patriarch Zhou didn't know if his decision was right. He couldn't help but sigh. I hope we can persevere until Black Wind City wins. At this moment, Patriarch Zhou completely placed his hope of repelling Mulong on Black Wind City. Didn't he know that Black Wind City couldn't even protect itself? Yin Liang, you're too arrogant. At this moment, in the direction of Black Wind City, the battle had already started. At this moment, 3 people had already been killed under Yin Liang's feet. And the one who rushed up at this moment was an external elder of the He clan. His strength was also considered strong, and his cultivation of the 5th-level Devil Emperor was undoubtedly revealed. Elder He Jin, come on, kill that arrogant person. Elder He Jin, you can definitely do it. Elder He Jin, kill him. At this moment, everyone in the He family's camp was shouting furiously. One had to know that their He clan dominated Black Wind City and Meteor Trail City. That was absolutely an overlord existence. But today, they were actually surrounded. How could they not be furious? What infuriated them the most was that they had sent out 3 genius disciples in a row. Furthermore, other than the first one, the other 2 were demon emperors. In the He family, they were all favored by the heavens. However, they had all been killed by Yin Liang. This made the entire He family furious and distressed. Now that the He family could not take it anymore, they could only send out elders to kill Yin Liang. Third elder, how are things over at Meteor Trail City? Have the reinforcements arrived? The head of the He clan, He Changxing, looked at the orderly 10,000-strong army and asked with a frown. Patriarch, Starfire City has not been attacked by the enemy. Moreover, the great elder has already sent reinforcements. The third elder said immediately. Hearing this, He Changxing nodded in satisfaction. Where did this Yi family army come from? Why haven't I heard of them before? Furthermore, their equipment is so good. Looking at the 10,000 well-equipped army, even He Changxing, the head of the family, who had seen the world, was slightly shocked. They seem to have come out from a castle of the kings. Now, the castle of the kings has been changed to the first city. The third elder replied immediately. The first city. What a boastful tone. He Changxing sneered. At this moment, the outer sect elder, He Jin, had also arrived in front of Yin Liang. He Changxing and the others immediately looked at him. Do you think He Jin can deal with this person? He Changxing asked the elders. Elder He Jin's strength is in the middle among the elders with different surnames. I think it will be easy for him to kill this person. According to Elder He Jin's strength, he can even fight against rank 6 experts who have not returned. I think we will win this time. As long as we kill this person, this Bulsh * T Yi family army will collapse by itself. These people will belong to us completely. Right? Double quotation mark. Ha. This is simply a gift to our He clan. The more the elders talked, the more excited they became. As Yin Liang had not completely revealed his strength, there was no one here who was more powerful than Yin Liang. Therefore, no one could tell Yin Liang's strength. However, these people were full of confidence in He Jin's strength. Although Yin Liang had killed 3 people and shocked them greatly, they believed that Yin Liang's death was imminent now that He Jin had made his move. Kid, blame yourself for following a master who has no foresight. In your next life, you better be careful. Not everyone is someone you can afford to offend. After He Jin finished speaking, the long sword in his hand had already been swung down. Noisy. Hearing He Jin's words, Yin Liang snorted coldly and swung the weapon in his hand at the same time. It went straight for He Jin's neck and chopped off his head in an instant. At this moment, He Jin was still in attack mode. The long sword in his hand was still some distance away from Yin Liang. He Jin's face was still filled with joy. Perhaps he was still imagining the scene of him killing Yin Liang. With a plop, the long sword in He Jin's hand fell to the ground, and his headless corpse fell backward. Ha! Seeing Yin Liang kill He Jin so easily, the 10,000 people of the Second Legion immediately cheered excitedly. On the other hand, the people of the He family involuntarily took half a step back when they saw this scene. Although He Jin's strength was not considered strong in the He family, he was still above average. However, at this moment, he had been killed by Yin Liang with a single blow. How could they accept this? Elder He Jin has been killed. This person's cultivation has surpassed Elder He Jin's. Just how strong is this person? At this moment, the people of the He family were discussing this matter with fear on their faces. Looking at the 4 corpses at Yin Liang's feet, they felt even more terrified. Family head, what should we do? Many elders of the family looked at He Changxing anxiously. At this moment, He Changxing's face was ashen. He had not expected Yin Liang to be so much stronger than he had imagined. Everyone, let's join forces and kill this bastard. He Changxing could only make this decision. He did not know Yin Liang's cultivation level. If he sent people alone now, he would probably be sending them to their deaths. However, at this moment, there were more than 10 elders here. He did not believe that more than 10 elders would not be able to kill Yin Liang if they joined forces. Otherwise, the He family would be destroyed. Yes, hearing He Changxing's words, the elders immediately shouted and took out their weapons. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.